Welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us. This is Ethica. This is with you again in Equatoria Free Forum with Hadassah, Hakim Dario, and then we'll have another our panelists to come on and join us. We'll give you a minute and we'll start our topic today. Thank you.
Anina Equatoria, Nasawa, Anina Equatoria, Beled Wahid, Anina Equatoria, Anehna, Anina Equatoria. Oh yeah, Kanita min Yambio, Kanita min Tori, Weleta min Juba, yeah, Anina Equatoria. Keresia sama kesi manena, yeah. We strong, we stand together, yeah. Kanihna gulu wahi, Equatoria birapa, Yalbi pijama, Asan Belet na birapa. So give us pen, don't give us guns. Oh yeah, give us Ipanabule. Anina Equatoria, Nasawa, Anina Equatoria, Beled Wahid, Anina Equatoria, Anehna, Anina Equatoria. Oh yeah, Kanita Zande, Kanita Mai, Au Kukuye, Anina Equatoria. Kelele na hivyo ndio fusina, kebilia kede maferiganina. Salam wa sakhafa, behaja derino, Hassan Bele na biraba, Arif ma bisaido. So give us pen, don't give us guns. Give us Ipanabule. Anina Equatoria, Nasawa, Anina Equatoria, Beled Wahid, Anina Equatoria, Anehna, Anina Equatoria.
Nihna kulu sawa jama, so my perfect ngala. I love my people, and I am the voice.
Acholi ya buka ya baka, Equatoria balanda mare, Kamu wakili kukuku, Lango lugoya, Acholi kukusa mundo, Nyambara morobe mare, Mundare, Nyambara, Otumu mare makotudo, Lugara bugaya lobe, Lolo bezinare,
Mundo,
Nare,
Anakulu nasi sawa. Mavi hata bigesi manena, siasa mabigesi manena, Anina Wahi.
All right. Thank you. Just give me a second for the echo. Can somebody take over just because I have some issues with my technicality over here? Hadassah, can you take over for a second? Just so I can correct something here.
So are we live now, eh?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. I'm just trying to get something here because I have echo. Just to go ahead, introduce Brother Hakeem because we're going to talk about the special report. Yeah, so if you can mind, sorry about that. This is the problem with the live. Sometimes we have issues in the technicality. So please, for the audience, bear with us. You know, we're just gonna fix this in a few minutes.
All right. Greetings to you all, our brothers and sisters, our Equatorian family. We thank you guys who are here, and most of you who are gonna watch this video later. We just want to thank you and welcoming you to watch the video and watch it with understanding and look deeper into what we're going to discuss. And hopefully we can all come to a place whereby we can choose to choose ourselves first and put Equatoria first. And today we having our brother here, Dr. Hakim, who's going to be our guest here. He's going to discuss this report that we have from one of these journalists. I just want to welcome you, Hakim, and welcome to introduce yourself so that people can know, people who don't know you, who you are, they can know you more and more of what you're going to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, Hadassah. It's been a while, but I'm very pleased to be back here on Equatoria Free Forum today to share our thoughts and our ideas about an important report, a special report, is issued by Alan Boswell and published by the Institute of Peace, United States of America Institute of Peace. As probably some of you have followed me on social media, probably know, but nonetheless, I would like to introduce myself again for those who are new to this forum and who have perhaps been here for the first time. So my name is Hakeem Dario. I live in Europe, in UK, to be more specific, and I maybe for some background, I probably many of you might have heard of Hakeem Dario as a member of the Equatorial People's Alliance, and it's a recent event, a recent initiative which started last year in 2020, and so we have been at times coming online on social media in Equatorial Broadcasting Corporation, and we have Equatoria at heart, and it's therefore no surprise that I'm here today to also take the opportunity to share with you the contents and implications of the special report, which is primarily focusing on Equatoria. Apart from that, my background is in academia. I was teaching at the University of Juba back in the days, in the 1980s. So I have many of my students here in the West and in other countries. But I was also a very active member of the civil society back in 2005. Even before that, before the signing of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, I was one of the a member of a group of media activists and journalists who were operating in Sudan at that time. People like Alfred Taban Logone and Niall Deng and a number of other media professionals We established AMDIS, the Association for Media Development in South Sudan, in 2003, 2 years before the signing of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement. And I was the lead advocate on media policy legislation and legal framework in South Sudan for over 10 years until the media laws were passed in Parliament in Juba in 2013. More specifically, the right of access to information, South Sudan Broadcasting Corporation, and Media Authority for South Sudan, 2013. These were all acts that were passed by the Parliament in Juba in 2013. So many of you will probably have followed my activities in Juba at that time. But unfortunately, the democratic country that we wanted to establish by creating a democratic space and having a role, an effective role for independent media in South Sudan, and never came to reality. And we now find ourselves having to resist the oppression of the regime that is in the country, and our country has failed, has become a failed state. So perhaps that's a little bit more about me, and but of course, if you wanna know more, you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can also go to other websites in which you might find my activities in the in politics, in advocacy for change, and so on. So I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Brother Hakeem and Sister Hadassah. I apologize about that earlier. I had some technical issues here. I just wanted to say first, greeting to everyone who are watching us. It's been a while. Thank you for joining us. Of course, the topic today, as you know, is about the crisis, the special report of Alan Boswell on the crisis in South Sudan, and specifically Equatoria. We're talking about the Equatoria region. And we're going to start if CJ there to be able to ask questions. I mean, and of course, this analysis about what this report is about, because it's a very important report for us as Equatorian. We need to really, all of us, if whoever had this, they need to share it and they need to read it by themselves, because this report is very important, and it actually also delve into the case that we always speak about Equatorial condition and what Equatorian people need to do so we can overcome the tragedy that has been hunting our people right now. One of them is the displacement, marginalization, and lack of leadership. Today, even there is a vacuum of leadership within Equatorian society because of what have been going since the conflict. The failure of leaders, the so-called leaders, to state in a strong statement that Equatoria what they want, but unfortunately did not speak strongly to the point to defend and protect Equatoria land and the people, and even the policies that is against Equatoria that has been played since that, before even the conflict, but since the conflict have happened, this thing became very clear that there is something, a conspiracy against Equatorian people for the reason of they trying to marginalize and displace us so they can take over the land. And so we will talk about it in a few. So I wanted to give CJ to get and to speak here for a minute if you want to get in, because I'm still having a hard time here with my computer, unfortunately. I apologize again. It's just giving me a hard time. Sorry about that. But you can go ahead. I can actually try to start with greeting, and then from there you can get ahead. So greeting to all. Yes, sir. We hear you. You hear me? We hear you. Just a second. Greeting to all our beloved friends and members and audiences, especially our gracious Greater Equatorian family, and not to forget our confused and troubled foes who cannot fathom Greater Equatoria call for sovereignty. And all in all, we shall build, like we always say, we shall build our country not through the hands and the might of warlords or tribal anarchists, to their greed and for power, but we shall, make sure that our land will be built through a genuine and righteous idea of well-built utopian nation. Even though people say utopian is a fictional thing, but in reality, there is a dystopian nation that is now playing around the world in a reality. And one of them is South Sudan. And it can go even back to the other countries, like Asian countries, where there is some dictatorship and abuse of power and abuse of the people. So dystopia and utopia are opposite each other, but they are real, and it can happen. If people want it, if people are not fighting for their right, they will be under dystopian nation. They will be a dystopian nation. But if they want to be in the right and they want to stand up for their right, then they have to stand up and fight for their right, whatever it takes. I know there'll be a sacrifice, and that's what we need, to sacrifice believing in the land and believing in the future of our people. We believe our desired nation, Great Equatoria, shall be a nation that shall not trust in any form of tribal anarchy, but in the form of law and order, which shall be supported by the unbreakable golden rods of true freedom and equality for all. Our beloved Great Equatorian brothers and sisters, Equatorial Civilization Council on Diaspora, and an EPA association, in diaspora, would like to take this moment to salute you all and reflect with pride and honor to all our fellow Great Equatorian Revolutionary brothers and sisters, and home and abroad. And we salute you all in the name of justice, accountability, and equal rights. We salute you in the name of Great Equatorian nationalism, and we salute you in the name of Great Equatorial unity, a true unity of our people struggle. We salute you all in the name of hope and brighter future for our people, for our suffering people forever. And we salute you also in the spirit of our genuine love bond that ties us all together with each other. As Great Equatorian, we must remember our sacred bond we share with each other as Great Equatorian people is not solely focused on slogans or unfounded fragile unity, but Great Equatorial unity, it must be noted, it wasn't born by political or geographical necessities or our passion for each other to lift up and protect each other. It was also made to our Great Equatorian ancestors who were together, believed, and formed what we call today Equatoria. They believed in it and they raised it, and they raised the generation that we are today. So let this immortal idea live forever in the spirit of Great Equatoria, and Equatoria shall be free. There'll be a nation sooner or later. Again, I want to welcome you guys, and please take your time, enjoy watching with us the show. God bless. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. CJ.
Thank you very much. Hi, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. Can you hear me? Am I clear?
Yes, sir. We hear you clear.
Well done. Okay, thank you. Well, it's glad to have this opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. My name is CJ, and I will be a co-host today, together with Atika and the other, and Didi probably, and
yes, and Hakim,
yeah,
that's
right. Yeah, yeah, indeed. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great opportunity for us to have this chance. Always this can be a part of one of the historical moments. Because as days goes, we always so thankful to God for surviving and all that. Remember that we have many people who are fallen along the way, who are now on trees, refugee camps, suffering. Trying to get food for the children without vacations. We have a lot to be said. Yet, it's always good, when we come across these gentlemen, Alan Moorhead, the author, based as our brothers have just stated. Actually, this is something very important. It's something very important for us as Equatorian in particular. Because mainly, the guy seems to be talking all about Equatoria, mainly concentrating on Equatoria issues. And we're so happy, that, he brought many points that will be one of our issues today of discussions. Mainly, that's why we've just divided the special reports into three, let's say, episodes and probably programs. We'll go through it one after the other. As a starting point, of course, we'll have to go through the report, the summary of the reports, and the descent into the war, of course, as well, which has the articles for those who are aware of that, who have come across this particular report and read it. Because our main point is, of course, our main goal is to make it clear and well known to everyone, so far as, particularly Equatorians, so that they know what's their problems and what is facing them, and what did the world is talking about them, and particularly those households and the specialists, those who are we used to talk about the issue of Sudan concerning, well aware of this issue of Sudan and all that. Yeah, because for us, we believe that, without you guys, without any participation, believe me or not, our case will not be considered at all. So that's why we urge every one of you also, or those who may have come today to attend these particular sessions or episode, to come and join us, make sure that, they also help the others, try to tell the others in a way or another, communicate with them, talk and discuss about this issue, because it's something very important. This can be a turning point toward our rights, toward achieving our goal, if indeed we're serious. So I urge every one of you guys to pay attention and, participate with us fully, as well, So to start with, who's Alan? Of course, Alan Mohit. It might have been in the report here. It's clear.
It's not Alan. Sorry to interrupt. It's Alan Boswell. I can actually read the report, and then you can actually
Alan Boswell. Yeah.
go to the.
Well, we'll just brief. I'm just going to tell it in brief. Yeah.
No, I mean, I want to say the biography. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Go ahead. You can go ahead. Go ahead then.
I'm just saying, Alan Boswell is a crisis group senior analyst in South Sudan.
That's right.
He has joined the crisis group role in October 2018, and he's actually a leading expert in the conflict in South Sudan. His analysis have been appears regularly in media, including New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, and Financial Times, even Foreign Policy Associated Press, Reuters, and more, including even Al Jazeera. Sometimes he corresponds. So he's a freelancer in that point. So yeah, and then about the United States Institute of Peace, as that one that the report came into. The report was published this year. I mean, a couple of months ago. I could not remember the time, but yeah, it's United States. Yeah, it was established. I mean, the United States Institute of Peace was established by Congress in 1984 as an independent institution devoted to the nonviolent prevention and mitigation of deadly conflict abroad. And one of them, it could be like, Asian countries, European countries, even Africa mostly. And this is where the report was there, because the main objective is justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion of peace building. This is what the United States Institute of Peace. So from there, you can go ahead, Mr. CJ. Thank you.
Oh, well done. Okay, thank you. Well, of course, this has been a brief about the outcome. Well, as you might have known, we leave it. As Equatorians, we leave the war. We have seen what is going on, particularly those who have been there, once been caught in this war. Could it be in any area, wherever you are in Equatoria? Yeah, it is too sad, definitely. Our life seems to be in jeopardy. As you can see, many of us are now worldwide. We're all worldwide. We're scattered all over. So what I can see is that, of course, all this, the governments, there are some kind of critical points which really, I wonder how could be our answer, because as says the guy, he went on to debate that, what happened in Equatoria isn't at all a war that can, a definition, it wouldn't end he didn't reach the point of declaring what kind of Equatoria problems, the problems that came to Equatoria. Of course, he went on to say that, this war is not a part of Equatoria. It has never been an Equatorian war. Of course, this has been transferred to them automatically. Yeah, so Equatoria found itself, being burned. Their people have been displaced, killed in numbers to an extent of Rwanda, most probably. According to what he says, of course, there's too much violence since 2016. It erupted across, Equatoria, and then hundreds of course, thousands of got fled, as we have come to realize that. Equatorians found themselves into Uganda in a big numbers, in an extent that is almost alike to what had happened in Rwanda. So this is the situation where we have been in. So the complicated point is that, if you define yourself as Equatorian, what brought this crisis to us when it was already between Dinka and Nuer? According to the reports, according to his report, the reference that the gentleman depend on, of course, he says, Kalaman Wani, one of the governors, once told them that it was actually, by the time when these things erupted in 2013, he went on to say that, the conflict is between Nuer and Dinka. Unfortunately, they dragged this issue to Equatoria. That could be one of our key points today to talk about it. Whether or not Equatoria was it a fall of Equatoria, or it is something that was being introduced to us, brought to us. So this is one of the questions that, simply we may be able to ask any one of us concerning this particular report, and whether or not the gentleman have put it in a clear manner that, the complex that was brought, this complex was brought to Equatoria, that this complex is not a South Sudan complex, but rather Equatoria found itself in. Okay. All right. So I will stop here and ask any one of you, for instance, like Brother Hakim, if possible, that you could explain to us, our position, the position of Equatoria at this particular war. How can you define it? Because, what is going on in the world today is that, the conflicts, this is a tribal war. Sometimes, they say it's an intercommunal war. There's some kind of complications. Can you tell the audience whether or not, where does Equatoria stand? As one of the activists as well, I will be more than happy to hear from you, from any one of you guys. Thank you. Go ahead. Or else anyone may pick it up. Yeah. Not necessarily Brother Hakim. Thank you.
You don't mind if I read the summary? If you don't mind, the summary first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, just to give you, and then Hakim, we can start there by opening your analysis on this topic. I mean, the summary of this crisis group, it says in 2016, South Sudan war expanded explosively into a country's southern region, Equatoria, triggering a major refugee crisis. Even after 2018 peace deal, parts of Equatoria continue to be active hotspot for national conflict. The war in Equatoria does not fit neatly into the simplified narrative of South Sudan's war as a power struggle for the center, nor will it be addressed by the peace-building strategies built of those precepts. Most Equatorians, a collection of diverse minority ethnic groups, are fighting for more autonomy, local or regional, and a remedy to what is perceived as primarily Dinka hegemony. Equatoria elites lack the external support to viably pursue their objective through violence. The government and the regime in Juba, meanwhile, lacks the capacity and local legitimacy to definitively stamp out the rebel. Both sides should pursue a negotiated settlement situated within South Sudan transitional period. On a national level, conflict resolution should pursue shared sovereignty among South Sudanese constituents and regions beyond power sharing among elites. To resolve underlying grievance, the political process should be expanded to include constitutions with local community leaders. The constitutional reform process of South Sudan current transitional period, therefore, diverse special focus. Thank you. This is the summary. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. Thank you. I'm glad to have the opportunity once more to share with you here today. I want to first greet the audience. I want to greet the viewers and all Equatorians who are listening to or watching this panel discussion of a very, very important report. The special report, and I think it deserves to be a special report because we have not seen any substantive report in the media or globally in the last year or two since the revitalized agreement was signed in Khartoum, which focuses specifically on Equatoria. So it seems like this report is saying that this a case, or there needs to be a focus on what's going on in Equatoria, and it clearly talks about the conflict in Equatoria, and I think this is a report about us Equatorians. All of you who are listening here and those who are watching, if you're Equatorian, this report is about you, and so this report is about us, and it talks about the conflict, broadly, of what's going on in Equatoria today. So I think if you look at this as a conflict, which is the primary reason for why today we have 1.2 million Equatorians as refugees in Uganda, and also the fact that many Equatorians are not only in Uganda, but they are also in countries like Egypt, Ethiopia, or Uganda, or Kenya, and so on, and of course those who are in the diaspora. How can we not be affected by the conflict that's taking place in Equatoria? But the one thing which I just wanted to also to remind everyone is that I'm particularly very happy that there is now a report in the international arena which is giving voice to Equatoria and to Equatorians. That's what this report is doing. It's giving voice to Equatoria, and it's giving voice to the conflict which is raging in Equatoria. Something that we attempted to address, particularly, for example, when I participated in the peace talks in Addis Ababa in 2017 to 2018. What I have seen coming out in the report is exactly what we were trying to present as PDM, as People's Democratic Movement. And that was the only political organization during the peace talks that focused on Equatoria. And I'm glad that this report is following in that same direction, giving focus to Equatoria. Because in our position paper that we presented to the peace talks, we raised many of the same issues that are now raised here in the report. One of which was that the peace agreement, if there is going to be any peace agreement, it has to be people-centered. It has to be people-centric. And in that, we say it has to adopt a federal system during the transitional period. And we even proposed, we went further and proposed a federal system based on the historical, structures, the political structures that existed that, became the units of governance in South Sudan, which is Equatoria, Bahr al-Ghazal, and Upper Nile. And we also wanted to have a people that the transitional period should concentrate on a people-driven constitution-making process, because this would be the opportunity for us, instead of sharing power between elites, the power should be shared between the peoples of South Sudan, comprising and consisting of Equatoria, Upper Nile, and Bahr al-Ghazal. So these are some of the things that this report has highlighted. But what I wanted to bring into focus are the observations, which I think we should all be very familiar with, acquaint ourselves with this report. This report is saying this, that of all the 3 regions of South Sudan, Equatoria, Upper Nile, and Bahr al-Ghazal, Equatoria is the weakest link. Equatoria is the weakest link politically. That Equatoria does not have political unity. It's like politically we are not united, which underscores why Equatoria is the weakest link. And the other observation which is made in this report is that that Equatoria have a shared perception of marginalization, of being politically marginalized. And this is a very, very important observation. I think many of you will have to think about it and form a view about it. And then the other thing, the other observation that they also made in the report is this, that Equatoria does not have political leadership. It doesn't have clear leadership on the direction of where Equatoria is going in this conflation of South Sudan that is now becoming more like a failed state. That Equatoria lacks strong political leadership within our society, and it is simply because we are disunited politically. We lack that political direction and leadership as Equatorians. So, and this bears the fact that our leaders, our current leaders, don't seem to see and look at Equatoria as a nation, or they fear to, follow the implications of that. If you look at Equatoria as a nation, then there are certain implications, and I guess this is what is confronting Equatoria today as a region, that we are not addressing the issues raised in the report in a very structured and organized way. But I think the key issues are really three that have come out in this report. That one, and I want you to think about it. One is that Equatoria doesn't have a strong, unified political leadership, and looks at the weaknesses of, for example, the governors, the three governors of Equatoria, who organized several conferences about and calling for a federal system of governance and so on. But that's all there is to it. So there's a vacuum. That's what the report is saying. There's lack of real political leadership in Equatoria. That's one. The second, like I said, is that yes, we as Equatorians, we have a shared identity. We have this sense of being marginalized as Equatorians, that we are not exercising political power. We do not exercise, political power in the sense of shared sovereignty, right? That we can participate in decision making. Today, our governors are appointed, so we lack the the exercise of the right to govern, the exercise of the right to make decisions for who our leaders are and so on. As you all know, there are decrees issued by Salva Kiir, and that political power is actually shared between Salva Kiir's hegemonic group in the SPLM and the Dinka leadership, and also that power is shared somewhat with Riek Machar and his Nuer group. So it's very stark and very clear that Equatoria does not exercise political power. It doesn't have unified political leadership, a strong political leadership to fill the vacuum. And of course, as a result, we are this weakest link. And also the report says that there is a shared sentiment among Equatorians that they are deserving of a shared sovereignty in this new country called South Sudan, and that this is what has come out from the research that Alan Boswell has done in series of interviews, talking to people in the diaspora and back in South Sudan and so on. So those are really the three areas that we need to kind of like reflect on and really ask the questions to ourselves. Are these observations right? I think, in my view, the report put its fingers on what I agree with, and primarily those were the kind of issues that motivated some of us to come out in the open and try to give voice to these issues. So I'm glad that this report has given voice to this issue, and once it's in the public domain, it deserves to be discussed, and the implications need to be considered. So it's very important for each and every Equatorian to consider this report and to read it and to understand the implications. So I'll stop here for now.
Brother Hakim, if you can jump in, would you please? Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can jump in. Well, it looks like, what you have said is perfect, but, well, about the reports, when it comes to us as Equatorians, the major issue is that, we wonder, in the earlier days, since 2013, by the time when this war broke, the conflict between Dinka and Nuer, it's all of a sudden, the way how people are talking was totally different, including the Equatorians themselves, the way how they are talking, they seems to be embracing the regimes and, trying to direct the regimes the way, in a way or another. Oh, that they should do this, and, particularly those from the Facebooks. So we wonder, before the civil associations could come in, the language seems to be totally irrelevant. People were just aligning with the government, telling the government, trying to give them tips that, they should do this and that, while Equatoria were being persecuted. Equatorian people have been suffering and of all these atrocities and all that. Despite that, we see some elements who got engaged with the government by the time. Language isn't at all trying to show the facts. Now, if at all we are to say that, those inside the country today, those who are holding the names of Equatoria, if indeed there's no leaderships, what were they doing? What have been what were they doing by the time when they were there? How did they get there? Because, is it a fall of Equatorians, leaderships, or it's the fall of people? Are we the ones who caused that, or it's else? It might have been others who have played dirty games to get us there. Because the isolation of Equatorians, they putting them aside, the sideline, if it is in decision making, if it could be in positions or constitutions, all these things wouldn't have happened if indeed our earlier leaderships, those who have got engaged with the government, could work us out, or by means fight for our rights, rather than being an ally. So how do you explain that? Thank you.
I think anybody can answer. Yeah, anyone can answer the question. But if you want me,
you go ahead. It's open. It's open. It's open. It's open to all of us.
Yeah,
including Attica and any one of us, guys. Didi, Asantia. Yeah, because we're being sidelined now as Equatorians. Who's to be account for that? Before we could go to the leaderships, who will be account to that? It is those, because, but then if you can see the leaderships there, that is SPLA. The SPLA is almost dominate the entire country. It is not, at the earlier days, there was the dominations of SPLA. Not until 2013, 2015, when we figured it out that, it is now two tribes or one tribe or two who are trying to dominate. So
yeah, I think this issue of hegemony is not something that is new. Hegemony, the problem of hegemony in the country is not something new. And this goes back to, for example, what was the driver for example, for the creation of 3 regions in South Sudan, after the Addis Ababa Agreement. When the Addis Ababa Agreement was signed, South Sudan was given an autonomy, implied, of course, South Sudan became one, but while it was one politically, it still had the provinces of South Sudan that were 3, Equatoria, Upper Nile, and Bahr el Ghazal. And all of these was administered together with, the different districts, of course, which were within those provinces. They were all administered centrally by the High Executive Council in Juba. And then later, and I think all of you know that Equatorians, there was a reason why there was Kokora, and like for example, when there was decentralization of South Sudan into three autonomous regions, because the idea was that the centralized model failed to to bring South Sudanese together. On the contrary, it concentrated power in the hands of hegemonic elites, hegemonic political leaders. And we all remember that. And I think Equatorians then wanted to say, okay, look, we cannot, have a system like what we see now. For example, one of the major complaints of the Equatorians at the time was that Dinka political leaders and elites, kind of like dominated all the institutions of government, and there was high level of corruption, and to the extent that this was no longer tolerated, and that's why political leaders in Equatoria decided, including Joseph Lago, called for decentralization of South Sudan into three regions, autonomous regions. And this even persisted later on, even within the SPLM. Later, for example, you had the governor of Equatoria was Abu John, Samuel Abu John. There was a separate governor for Upper Nile and separate governor for Bahr al-Ghazal. Okay, but the vast majority of the people who joined the SPLM at the time, in the early days, were people who were dissatisfied with the decentralization of South Sudan, and they do not, they don't really look at the decentralization, positively and constructively as a system of governance, just that devolves power to each region, right? They looked at it as, the system that chased them away from Juba. So that was it. It's like they were being chased away from Equatoria.
Once again, if I can jump in, Brother Hakim. Yeah. Well, okay. I guess I believe that we're all aware of what you are talking about, which is Kokora, definitely, and that has a column in particular. But the main point is, after when the Equatorians, joined the SPLA, many of them, become members. I believe that many of them become members in a way or another. Yet the thing is that there were those who are holding the title within the SPLA itself. If at all one is to ask himself, did those people speak out? For instance, did they know what will be the consequence afterward? Because getting into this issue, once you're in a conflict with someone and you know that, this guy is serious, this guy could be a dangerous, issue. I mean, he may come, he may threaten me, he may give me hard times. Isn't it, you have, of course, someone who is to be very serious. You are supposed to be serious in the first place. But, once you get engaged with this guy in a specific area, there should be a contract. There should be something that a guidelines. Did we play that role? That's the main point. Did those who are in the SPLA play that role, or they just went on blindly? That's the main point.
It's not even the question of going blindly. It's a question of dealing with reality on the ground. And many of those Equatorians who joined the SPLM, SPLA, they became members of the SPLM, SPLA, and so they had to follow the ideology of the SPLM, SPLA. They could not go there because they went there as individuals. They did not go there as organized groups. Even some of the political leaders in Equatoria, like Joseph Oduho, Joseph Oduho did not go with, for example, to go and represent SANU or anything like that. Those of Matthew Abur and other politicians who went there and joined the SPLM, SPLA, they wanted, of course, to go and influence it, but then they went as individuals, and they had to follow the lead of John Garang, who basically stamped his, authority on the SPLM, SPLA. And you will remember how the conflict started with the separatists, and many separatists, the Nuers and so on, like the Gaituts and others were killed, right? So it also then started to develop this model of centralized, political leadership of the high military command, right? So everybody had to be trained in the military, and so had to follow the orders of the military. It wasn't like during the Anyanya time where we had, for example, you had, political leaders like those of Oduho and many others, and those of Agri Jaden and others and so on, who did not necessarily operate as military commanders. They were politicians. They were playing an effective role in advocacy, political advocacy, and explaining the political, course of South Sudan at the time. So all I'm really trying to say here is this: that there was a straight jacket. SPLM became a straight jacket. You have to join it on the terms of the SPLM-SPLA, right? And that means you could not go there to present, for example, a political agenda which is separate to that of the SPLM-SPLA. And they were calling for New Sudan. They were a revolutionary organization, socialist, primarily socialist in its character and so on. It came up with a manifesto, and they had the support of Libya. They had the support of Ethiopia, so they became a power. So I think there was no room for example, for some of these Equatorians to go there and press the case for Equatoria or press the case for a good governance, because it was dictatorship within SPLM, SPLA. We all know that. Many people suffered and they were killed, including, people from Apanal and people from Bahal Ghazal. So SPLM became more dictatorial in a character. So if you went and joined the SPLM, you just have to, keep your mouth shut. There was no political space. Yeah. So that, I think this is what created all of this problem. There was no there were not democratic space within the SPLM, SPLA, and then later, and of course you have the prejudices, the background that most of those who fought as well were people who were anti-Equatorians, and the way Equatorians were even treated in the movement. As these are the people who caused the Kokora. They don't want unity of South Sudan. They were against us, and so on. So you had all of these prejudices that haven't gone away. So if you look at the present situation in South Sudan, right, the hegemony is still there. The corruption is still there. It's exactly a replica or worse than what was happening during the time of Abel Alier, right? So these hegemonic tendencies have persisted. And there was hope that maybe when South Sudan became independent, we would now think about governance. We would now talk about governance. And governance means, putting in place institutions of the state to govern and to provide good governance. And then this would create a space for us to articulate the agenda of how we want to govern ourselves. Now that we have a country, how can we govern ourselves, and provide good governance, promote human rights, and so on? Because we are now becoming a state, right? So the conversation would have become different, because now we're saying we have our state and we have legitimate right to begin to speak about the issues of state formation, about the structures and institutions that should govern, about representations of our people, so that if people can form own political parties, people can campaign, Equatorians would speak for themselves. For example, look, after before and after the independence of South Sudan, Equatorians held 3 conferences, right? Conference in April 2011, another conference in 2012, and in 2013. So all of those conferences were held in which Equatorians came together as a people, right? And they called for a federal system of governance in South Sudan.
Now let's see.
So
let's see if
that was the first time Equatorians. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if we can. Yeah, if we can shift it to one of our audience, who are down here, like one of our hosts, Asantia or Didi.
No, just a second, CJ.
Are they around? Let's see their
all of them
ideas
are
as well.
around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
hold
see
on.
their ideas.
Just give me a minute. CJ, they got this money. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead. Can you hear me? Hello? Ajik.
Yeah, I think they dropped. I think it dropped.
Yeah, I would like, so that we share this question as well with the sisters,
Yeah.
Didi and Essentia. Let's see what will be their answer as well. Hello?
Yeah, okay, just a
Essentia.
second. I wanted to go back to the topic.
Awatika as well.
Yeah, just want to get to the topic, please, if you don't mind. The point is that I want to put the summary. So going back, because this is we want to remember, we have this specific topic here today is going to explain the conflict, because remember, this thing is about Equatoria report. In South Sudan, it says the special report that conflict and crisis in South Sudan's Equatoria. And this is why we wanted to focus here. I know the conflict is a big case that, the guy had summarized as much as he can and also put it in the report. And he explained exactly clearly what the conflict, that what is the result or the failure of Equatorians not able to kind of like realize this thing before it was too late, but still there is a lot of chance for Equatoria to take up this report and kind of analyze where is their failure, and so they can go ahead forward. So my point here, that summary, this is centered to the war. So earlier we have put the briefing about the report, who wrote it. It was Alan Boswell, and it was sent to United States Institute of Peace. And so the summary, of course, I've read it earlier, but I want to look here. This question goes back about the descent to war. So if we go back in that point that he said, when this conflict came up, Equatoria has nothing to do with it. But then suddenly Equatoria now involved in it. Even now Equatoria become a hotspot or hot zone for the national conflict that now this regime is trying to call it a national conflict. So if I can ask again, return it to the Hakim. Of course, this is going to be analysis of three segments. First segment is about the descent to war. The second segment is going to be the key actors. And the third segment is going to be about also the leaders, including the Equatorian leaders, and also the tribal leaders of the SPLM-IO and SPLM regime, and also the other small leaders in the political arena who are now playing a role in these things. But to go to the conflict again, Equatoria, if you just summarize it, then I start with Hakim and then going to everyone. Yeah. So if I ask the question, do you believe that this war is a civil war based on this report, or do you see it as a tribal conflict of two tribes that now involved Equatoria within this tribal warlords who are only focusing on power? Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is mostly a power struggle by the hegemons in South Sudan. It's not really, it might be termed as a civil war, but the way it is started, it should have not led to a war in the first place, because the conflict was within the SPLM itself. The SPLM were discussing issues of transition and change of leadership, and that has exploded, and taken a tribal dimension. Who were killed in Juba. There were Nuers killed in Juba in searches of door to door. If you are found to be a Nuer, you are killed. And also the Nuers also did the same in territories that came under their control. So it became a tribal war. And this tribal war was then kind of like brought to a halt by power sharing between those who fought among themselves. Power sharing between SPLM. If you refer to the agreement in 2015, they revitalized the agreement for resolution of conflict in South Sudan. It was just, between SPLM members, by sharing power between them. And who were those opposed to each other, who fought each other? And they were the Nuers and the Dinka. So it was really a tribal war. And then the power was shared between them, and they wanted to retain and maintain that position of being now the political masters in the country. So it's a tribal war. It wasn't really, you could say it in a way, because it's taking place within a country that just became independent. you could possibly classify it and say, yes, this is a kind of civil war. But it wasn't really a civil war about a system of governance or some ideological issues. No, it was just it took a tribal dimension, because these issues could have been resolved peacefully through the SPLM mechanisms of being an institution, but it wasn't there. They did not have the institutions in place. It was just cult, tribalism. People followed their tribes. The Dinka followed Salva Kiir, and the Nuers found themselves victimized and had to follow Riek Machar. So that was what. But the Equatorians were not involved in this war because they were not directly, responsible for the conflict in the first place. So they looked at it, from the standpoint of saying, why is this going like this? This is something wrong. We should have a better system of governance. And they wanted to stand with allies. They wanted to be allies with a change, a system that is advocating change to take us out of this hegemonic nightmare in the country. So yeah, it was a tribal war, and that's what it is. That's today the power is shared on a tribal basis. It's between the Nuer and the Dinka. That's you can't, even when the agreement was signed, that is how in Khartoum. You remember the people who were celebrating the signing of the comprehensive of the agreement, and who were raising their hands. They were all Dinka. They were all Dinka and Nuer. There was Riek Machar. Yes.
Yeah.
There was Riek Machar. Yeah. And all of this. I mean, Kir and other Dinkas, and Riek, for example, was there as part of the picture. You have Chang Son Chang was part of the picture, and then on the other side you have Riek, Salva Kiir, and then you have Deng Alor, and then there's this guy, the leader of the PLP party. And all of them are Dinka and Nuer. There was no Shuluk, no Equatorian in the picture, right? So what image are you portraying to the country? It was a peace agreement between the Dinka and the Nuer.
Okay, we will.
Let's stop here.
We will be. Yeah, we will be back. We will continue. I will have another question to you. If you don't mind, guys, mute yourself. It'll be easy. Those who are not speaking. So okay, this question now goes to Hadassah. Hello. Can you mute yourself, please, guys? Yeah, go ahead. Hadassah, speak.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Hadassah. The same question earlier asked. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, I will repeat the question, and please remember, guys, we're trying to make it limit time. But yeah, because there is technical issues that I'm facing here. If not that, I would have been able to control it better. I apologize for these issues, but thank you for your patience and your kind, kind patience for me. So I will ask again. It's from the summary that I read earlier about the conflict. If you heard Brother Hakim mentioning here that this is he defined it as summed it all and said this is a tribal conflict. With the same question I asked, and I'll repeat it to you again. The conflict, as we know, it started in 2013, and it was not based on a coup, according to what Kiir used to say, that was a coup plot or coup attempt that failed, and then he had to react based on that coup by attacking those supposed to be the plotters. But unfortunately, it turned out he killed civilians, and he was targeting them, and he sent his own tribal militia, and that's why I call them tribal militia, to go and target the tribe of Nuer. And there was a lot of victims in there. And then the same thing, during that time, the Ayo later became an Ayo. The Nuer tribes armed themselves and start waging a revenge. And they started in Bor and all these other areas, including Malakal, including they almost took Juba during that time. So the conflict expanded. And those areas who have nothing to do between the issues of Dinka and Nuer, if it was a past issue, which the Dinka later claimed, admitted that it is a conflict because of 1991, they are also justifying the killing of Nuer in 2013. So in your assessment of what you have seen, because still some people try to make it as if it's a political issue and it's a national issue. It is not actually a two-tribe conflict and tribal conflict. So as you heard from Brother Hakim mentioned earlier, he explained on his part, but I want to know from you, do you agree that this is a tribal conflict on all matters? And especially now Equatoria begin to be dragged in this, and some Equatorians blindly are joining these two elements who are causing Equatoria to even get worse in its state of insecurity. So go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for your question. And I just want to thank everybody who is here. And, regardless whether it's morning or night to your place, thank you for being here. My answer will be like typically no, it's not a civil war. I will agree with Hakim strongly, very strongly, that this is just a tribal war, like what he has put it. As we all know that these people are engaged in this ritual, barbaric act that has it's running down their bloodstream. Something that they inherit from their, from their back fathers. Their great grandfathers, and they just don't want to let it go. They keep bringing it on and on. Every time we get to a place where by we people are supposed to settle and move forward, they will bring it back, reversing people into this conflict. Yes, like Kir, he has he tried to convince people to say that this is a coup that Riek Machar was doing against him, which is like some says that it's really a baseless accusation, that he has no reason to do it, rather than just the payback that you had mentioned. At the time, I would say at the time that to even to go further to let Equatorian understand this properly, that this the reason why that we are emphasizing in Equatoria, because truly we are victims in this, and we continue to be victims, as this report has highlighted, and also to open the hearts and the mind of other Equatorians out there who are really opposing us when we are standing for for just strictly for Equatorians, and saying that no, we should go for unity. And some some Dinkas out there, they are victims, some Nuer are victims and stuff like that. But if you look at this report is really telling us that this is an outsider, which is outside the box. When you are inside the box, most of the time you don't get to see what is really happening, because you're in the middle of the crisis. But someone who's outside the box is telling us that Equatorians, you are the victim in this. Open your eyes. You're not representing yourself enough. You're not speaking out for yourself. You're not defending yourself. You're allowing yourself, matter of fact, to be a victims in the hands of people who are unstable people who are they like have no vision, people who are caught up in childish acts, in selfish, reckless, deliberate acts, that they're not gonna let go of this act. So we kind of handing ourselves to them, as I don't know, as offerings or something like that, like they kind of like you're offering yourself, like here I am to be your sheep to be slaughtered in the middle of your paybacks, in the middle of your fights. This is what some of our leaders and some of our Equatorians are telling Equatorians, convincing Equatorians to do, just to offer yourself as a sheep or a goat to be slaughtered in the middle of this fight. Well, as in this report, as the report says that the war begin with Kir and Riek Machar, as when they started in 2013, when Kir's supporters and which I would call them really rebels, and Riek Machar's they went against Riek Machar in the accusation, and things turn up into like SPLM IO and SPLM IO and SPLM IO or something like that. So by that time Equatoria was stable, like as the reporters say that there was not a lot of this barbaric killing and fighting that was happening. But in the middle of 2000, I think the middle of 2006, that's where things have gone wrong in Equatoria. whereby, I think this, I would say that this is a time that, in the beginnings, because they were like caught up in the anger of, doing paybacks to each other, killing each other. They haven't really like focused in Equatoria. But as things are going, and they had to flee their places and find a safe haven for them, or a refuge. So they fled into Equatoria to be a refuge in Equatoria. But then, instead of seeking a refuge, you know, quietly, but then they turned into, capturing our places, creating, very bad atrocities, killing people, and the same things that they were doing to each other, they started doing to us, which is so strange. You come to somebody's house when you're a refugee, you're a homeless person, and then you begin to, to kill the person, that the host that is hosting you, that welcomed you to their place. So I would say, like, as I agree here, like what Hakim is saying, that, earlier, that that especially, our people that are saying, for example, our brothers or sisters that are in within SPLA, and then they will say things like, we're here, we're in SPLA fighting for Equatorians, or for Equatoria. um it's true that, you cannot really be in SPLA to fight for Equatoria, because SPLA is already a tribal regime. It's not a government, actually, it's a tribal regime. It's an organization that is based on tribalism since from the get-go, since from the days of John Garang. If we were to go back, we will see a lot of things that are happening, and everybody knew what John Garang was doing. It's just we stuck. Most of us are stuck with this vision, because people were thinking like, okay, if we separate, and then, later on, like what people telling them, that we will know what to do, and then later on, probably in the hope that these people of Upper Nile and Bahar al Ghazal, everybody will go to their home, and then, um, regardless, then everybody will be developing their places, and we will have peace, let's just endure this for now. But then to turn out that to the worst nightmare, that this is not happening really. And I would say that really, that this is an eye opener, this report, that, Equatorians should look closely. This is the time of awakening, really. Look, you're silencing us not to speak. You're silencing every platform of Equatoria that is speaking for Equatoria and Equatoria separation, or that let's focus on Equatoria. But look, an outsider, even a report, that of Kawaja even coming out, to speak out and write a report special on this, that people are telling us like, no, don't speak about this. If you speak about this, this is going to worsen things. Things have been worse. That's why we're speaking out. When we were silent, things have been so worse, you know until when we begin
Thank
to speak out, then they change their language. Do you remember, guys, when they were telling us that we fought, we die, you guys will be slave? And I remember there was a letter that, like, over, I don't know, 7 years or something, that was or there was put out, that saying that, if the rest of the tribe, especially Equatorians, if we want to live in South Sudan, we have to accept the slave under them. If we don't want to be a slave, then we have to leave. We have to go back to where we came from, where they used to, which they call us that we are Ugandans, and what do you call it, Congolese and stuff like that. But nowadays, they try to tune it down and try to say that, we are one people, let's stand for unity, peace, and stuff. Before, when even those Equatorians that are even supporting them, the SPLA and the IO, and those people who are supporting the unity, when they coming out speaking for the unity, you see this tribe, these two tribes will come out and abuse them so harshly. They will still abuse them. But today, when they come out and they're speaking because of our voices, of the platforms, these platforms that are speaking for Equatoria, all these platforms that are standing, like us and Dr. Hakim, and everybody that will speak for Equatoria, now they're getting afraid. You know, they started tuning down their voices. They're seeing us coming out strongly. Not afraid. You know, not really accepting to be bored, or fighting for position, or want to be accepted, or we want to do something for acquaintancy. You know, to be, what, so that tomorrow, if I, who knows, if worse come to worse, if I want to go back there, at least I can be forgiven and get a job. We didn't care really. We just spoke the truth as bluntly as it is. We didn't care, because we wanna, we like I always say that, these things these things, if you have to speak about a matter of a nation, you have to put everything out, including the disgraceful act, including the good acts. You have to put it out. If a nation has to be developed and if a nation has to move forward, you have to speak it out. When it comes to a family matters, this is when you can do something that we call what do you call it in Arabic? Like what do you call it? Like what do you call it? Sutra. Family matters, you do sutra. You don't bring everything, all your dirty laundries and put it out. But a nation, country that a nation that is inhabited by so many people and so many tribal people like this, all the dirty laundries need to be aired out in order for people to see. Today, when people see their wrong act, they hear it on and on, they will understand, it will ring a bell to their mind, and then they will learn, they will turn away from what they're doing, rather than sweeping things under the rug, hiding. No, 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 don't say it like this. No, no, no. If you speak like this, more people gonna die. If you people already dying, people already being killed, people already being raped, you know, people already been murdered, people already been chased out of the country. If you see, it's Equatorians who are more refugee outside, 2 point something million plus addition of 6 point something million in it. These are all Equatorians. They are living in illiteracy. They are living in a poverty. They are living in illness and sicknesses that even aren't treated. People are born even in a condition that they should not be born in it. So, and then you're telling us not to speak out. Now you see somebody from an outsider shining a light in it, that Equatorians, what are you doing? What are your leaders are doing? Why are you hiding? Why are you quiet? And I would say that as much as SPLA is not a platform for Equatorians to speak an Equatorian agenda or national agenda, like Hakim said, you cannot even bring a national agenda and speak it out in SPLA because it's a dictatorial regime. The same as Ayub. I find it really hilarious and weird when somebody would tell me that I am in Ayub fighting for Equatorians. How do you fight for Equatorians? This confuses me. Confuse me, that, it's like IO is being formed strictly to retaliate the act that had happened, to defend itself, actually, not actually retaliate, also to defend itself in what they had done in 1991, which we don't speak on it really more. We only, like most South Sudanese, will only highlight the thing in 2013. But IO has started this. When I say IO, that means the Nuer has started this in 1991. So who knows, the Dinka did what before 1991? They might have done something. And then the Nuer, Riek Machar retaliated. And then now, here decided to do payback too, to retaliate. So the thing is just retaliation on top of retaliation. So I would say, to keep it short, I would say that to keep with time, like, how long shall we be accompanying these people in their retaliation? How long? We have leaders, but leaders are still creating platforms which are exact model of the SPLA. Like, it's still the exact SPLA model of the SPLA going side by side. Like, let's say they're like a twin sisters. And just confusing Equatorians here, like what you would see is like confusing Equatorians like this, almost like this, it's not almost, it's like these Pentecostal churches that they're confusing people. This Christianity model whereby they will read the Bible, but then they will interpret it to you differently. The Bible will say here something, and then they will say something over there, or they will interpret it to you that you can do purgatory and pay for your atone for yourself and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like a confusion that is going on, So like they don't want like Equatorians to stand for Equatorians, I don't even know why, when we are the majority in the country, that Equatorians don't need to fear. You don't need to fear anymore. You are the majority. You are the number. You have the right to atone for yourself, to fight for yourself. You have the right to speak for yourself. Just as this Dinka and Nuer are, they are, what do you call it? They are so radical. They're radically speaking out. Equatorians should be more radical even. Because we existed as a nation before. It's just a condition, a zuruf that brought us together with the people that has not know even light, with the people that does not even know what they want. They don't know what is called peace. So I will just leave it here, and then I'll yank it back to you, Etika or CJ.
Thank
So
you.
that, yeah.
Thank you. I think CJ was trying, but the same question goes to the Catamel. And if you please, guys, brief it, make it short. That'd be great, because so we don't have to consume time. We have to make sure the time is perfect. But thank you so much for your clarification, Hadassah, for your point on this matter. So you agree both with Brother Hakim, and I agree with you both the same. And so goes to the Catamel the same question, and then from there I yield it to CJ, and if he can answer this question too, but then he can put his own input, because we're focusing on the summary of the conflict, the report, the special report on the conflict and crisis in South Sudan, Equatoria. Thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Mal, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much also. I greet all of you in the name of our God, God of Equatoria, and my prayer is that may all our Equatorians come to their senses with what we are speaking, and let them try to focus on our forums so that they can learn more, and then also it will help them. Yeah, you are talking about the war. For me, I will just say it's a tribal war. It's a war between Dinka and Nuer. The way they don't want to admit it, but this is how it is. They cannot run away from it. It's the way it is. And apart on our part as Equatorians, apart from being politically weak, we are also not admitting our reality of today. Like the situation we are in, we don't want to take it serious. We don't want to admit that we are already in a situation that it only us who need to work harder so that we can be able to collect ourselves together. Because what Dinka and Nuer is doing right now in Equatoria region is just something that, if we look closely and then we just see from different angles, and we'll just know that it is a manifesto that they are just finishing it out, which is domination and ethnic cleansing on Equatoria. Because we have like three types of Equatorian that we can say it's what is happening now. The first group of Equatorians are people who have already got scared and crippled politically, and they decided to just believe that this situation, it's only God that will remove us from it. And then the second group is just somebody who have already lost hope on Equatoria, unless if we join other hegemonies, at least maybe we can get our agendas or something that can deliver us from the mess we are in. And then the third group of Equatoria are the people who wanted to fight for Equatoria, but there's no clear leadership that can pull them up and say, now, this challenge that we are having, and it is indeed it's a challenge, and we need to accept it, because if we keep on denying, it is something that can really not help us. At the end of the day, sorry to say, we will find ourselves calling ourselves Equatoria Dinka. Because now, if they are teasing us, saying we are Dinka Madi, and they will continue, one day we will reach that level. If we don't stand strong, we can say now, because this is their plan. Because in their manifesto, you'll find marrying daughters from Equatoria, and then continue to clean their men out. So years by years, we will find ourselves just fading, and they're in that place. Because at the end of the day, if it is us Equatorians to think how we can come together, because politically even we were not able to come with an agenda that can help all of us to stand strong and then start fighting. Because I remember when people from Magui went and complained to JJ Accord when he was the General Chief of Staff, that Dinka has come to their area and now they are killing people and raping women and everything. Imagine the answer he could say. Because of his position, he just told them that you guys need to learn how to live with Dinkas. You must train yourself on how to live with Dinkas. Because it's already, these are the type of different answers coming from people who we thought maybe if they are there, they can at least use their powers to protect or maybe retaliate if there is anything. And then the same people who were chased from Lobonik the other day, given 7 days, you can see the type of Equatorian like pleading with them. We gave you guys like 7 days, you have to leave the place and go and go back or something like that. The same people came back and they killed two other gentlemen who were fishing just in the river. Yeah, this shows that these people, they came with the agenda of like intimidation and to show their power so that you guys can get like weaker mentally and physically or something like that. So the only challenge that I was seeing for us, Equatoria, to come like strong together, we need to find a way of how we can have one goal, unity for goal that can make us at least become also powerful, so that if we want to like liberate ourselves, this the only chance that we can be like finding ways of how we can meet and put our agendas and try to speak to Equatoria. And then another thing is just we have to keep on talking about finances, because with finance you can do a lot. We don't want to admit about like talking about finances, then we can be the way we are. Because sorry, I can just take 1 minute and then I'll yield it back to you. Because when we see the war during the war for the Nuer and the Dinkas, the way Dinkas stood with themselves and Nuer stood with themselves, it's just power. Because when the little we have, though we Equatorian have, you know, we have put in stage, because Dinka already, they have strategies of like how they can break us down. Riak is doing the same game Salfa is doing the same game Riak is doing on Equatorians. Because even us within the IO, we were divided. Equatorians who are in the IO were divided into different angles that you guys even cannot collect yourselves together and come as one force. Also, they are distributing them to different locations, which is not even closer to Equatoria, Upper Nile. Imagine, Equatorians are taken to Upper Nile, and then the Upper Nilers are brought to Juba. So what kind of game is he playing? It's the same thing Salfa is playing. So at the end of the day, it's all about domination of Equatoria. The powerful one will come and stand, and now will rule Equatorians forever. So this is a challenge. We need to admit it, and so that we can know how we can fight it. Yeah, thank you.
I think, I don't know, maybe Edika's network.
All right, let me jump in.
Okay.
Well, you know, what I'm trying to say is that, you know, actually, guys, thank you again for the opportunity. What I want to say is simply, since there's a number of us in the podiums at the meantime, you know, okay, so we may need to brief our answers, you know, when we raise the questions, so that, you know, time may not take us, you know, through some hours, you know, let me say, so that we don't have to go far. So let's make it brief. Well, as a matter of fact, concerning the first question that I forwarded to Brother Hakim, so I would like to know, you know, your point of view, guys, you know, when he gave an answer. I wish I would know from you guys, particularly Asantia and Didi. I concentrate on that, you know. When it comes to the second questions that Patrick have just raised, whether or not the war in the country is a civil war, or it's a war, an ethnic wars of the two tribes, so those two tribes, definitely, we all agree that, you know, the war is, of course, of Dinka and Red, and they don't want to accept it, of course. That is obvious, you know. They try to use Equatoria as a scapegoat, you know, try to put things, you know, try to kind of deceptions to the wall arena, so that people could understand that, you know, this is a war this is a conflict, a war of the entire country and entire nations. No, it's not a war of entire nations, definitely, we believe that. And yet, as you can see, from time to time, they used to shift it. Now, the next time, their next term was intercommunal conflicts. You know, that's what they used to put it as a terms. Yeah, for sure. This is how mostly, you know, those communist groups or dominators used to shift. You know, they wanted to do it in a way or another, so that, you know, we don't have to have a chance. And in response to the question, I mean, regarding my first question to Hakim, Brother Hakim, before to put it. As a matter of fact, not all Equatorians were in one mind, with SPLA. We were not all SPLA. There were some of the Equatorians who were just also fighting for liberation of South Sudan. It was clear. Among them, you could see people like politicians like Joseph Aduhu, who lost his life, sacrificed for our rights. So he was there. He was one of those, definitely, we appreciate, he was one of those who stands. So from my perspective, the way how I look at it, there were many people who are always fighting, but some Equatorians, of course, they were always fighting to the side of the government at the time. We believe that strongly. We know that. Yet the main issue is that, when Equatoria in 2005, sorry.
Yeah, if you can just go far away from the kids, that'd be great. Yeah, so I'm just, go ahead. Hello? My apologies, guys. So give me a minute. All right. So if he's not here, there's something that catch my eyes too in a moment. I wanted to talk about here. If he's not yet around, I'll be speaking here about there's something that he mentioned 2015 in the conflict, introduction to the conflict, that this war was an isolated pocket of local conflict, which is mean, if you remember the two regions that was more affected during the 2013 up to 2015, it was in the Upper Nile and going to Bahr al-Ghazal. Then from there, in 2016, the second violence that erupted, also this one would actually caused the destruction of Equatoria, where many Equatorians became victim of this conflict. This is one of his report, if you look at it in that report that he mentioned. So the conflict of 2016 put Equatorian in jeopardy, which is the same, but it's just like, because Equatoria actually, if you look back during that time of how Equatoria perceived it, and I think all of us have spoken about that, if I'm not mistaken, that the conflict, which was Nuer and Dinka, started. Of course, the Dinka was the aggressor. Nuer were just retaliating. But during that time, it was only in the area of Upper Nile, where a lot of Upper Nile people were coming to Equatoria at that time to seek refuge. And I remember some people from Malakal, especially, were running to central Equatoria or Juba and trying to hide there from the violence that was, a retaliation of these two rebel warlords who started the conflict. Then later, the 2016, after the peace agreement that was, like earlier you mentioned with Hakim on the agreement, it was only between two tribes. It is clear a tribal power, political power, that they have set down and agreed that they will share power according to what they have set in that agreement. And that agreement even include that there will be a court martial or a hybrid court that will prosecute those criminals. But unfortunately, this thing never happened because the aggressors, again, felt intimidated by Riek Machar. And also that time also, there was something that added to this. Equatorian were more siding, I would say 60% of Equatorian who were, even 40%, I would say, because majority of Equatorians still did not trust it, but 40% of Equatorian, and the rest are undecided or decided that they will not join the IO or SPLM because they know both of them are the same. So the 40% chose to join IO for the specific call of federalism. Remember, they used to sing this song, or they used to make this propaganda that, when you join Riek Machar will bring federalism to the people and Equatoria will get what they want. So unfortunately, this thing was just a political trick that they used for Equatoria to get them in, touch them in, so they can give boost to the IO, so they can gain a political seat. And this is what happened exactly at that time. And later, 2016, violence cost Equatoria a lot more than they imagined. And one of them is the displacement of Equatorian, including the destruction of the land of Equatoria, to the point that even they began to encourage warlords and militias, like those who support IO, support SPLM. They will promise them some positions, and then going even excavating the land, which is now you see the minerals like in Kaboita area, this is from the beginning. Even Kaboita was already been like excavated since the time of John Garang was alive, because John Garang was benefiting. Like SPLA benefited from Equatoria more because of Kaboita gold than they ever benefited from their alliance with any political countries, nations, other nations. Like even Ethiopia did not help as what Kaboita or Equatoria in general did to to sustain SPLM to survive, to continue buying weapons and continue commit their crimes against humanity as we know now. So these things are there. So I would love, if CJ you're here, please unmute yourself. I don't know what happened to him. Is he here or he out? You gotta unmute yourself so you continue your question. This is just one thing I want to highlight about the violence. So the 2016 was an exposure that Equatoria, because they were involved blindly, 40% of Equatorians who involved themselves in there caused Equatoria to be in this condition, where we already know that the SPLM had a plan for Equatoria, but they have went extreme when they saw Equatoria siding with IO. Especially now, Equatorian became a victim of what the mistakes of others, and especially that was the time when there was lack of leadership. Even if you look at it, the question of leadership of Equatoria, that was the question, because most of the leaders of Equatoria did not stand up strong enough to condemn or to even convince the Equatorian do not join this conflict. I know the only person that said it was Kelemen Wani, but it was challenged later, and then people joined. Even some of his community, some of every Equatorian community that we know, like all the tribes within the Equatoria, have joined, but now they are paying the price for this IO and SPLM conflict. So go ahead, CJ, if you're there, please continue and put your question there, as if you have anything, because this is the political crisis that Equatoria got himself into.
Can you hear me? Hello. Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yes, go ahead, please. Takatasma, man, if you get a lot of noise, if you can move around to places, please.
I can hear that. Yeah, أنا زي ما قلت لكم إنه الموضوع يعني باختصار طبعا إحنا هنا we're here to talk about the law report بتاعت الراجل ده. So بيكون عبارة عن مقتطفات. العبارة هتكون عبارة عن مقتطفات ما أكثر من كده. يعني of course brief points so that we all understand what's the particular points we're talking about. So هنا there's something that have come to my mind. Before I could go to that, definitely, as I've asked you a few minutes ago, as Santia Udidi, if you can answer the first question that I gave it to Brother Hakim, I'll be more than happy. Else, if you forget it, I can read it again if you like. Thank you. Any one of you guys.
The volume.
Do you hear me, guys?
No, I didn't know what was the question. Yeah. We hear you, but it's just that it was a bit low that I didn't particularly get the question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hello. Can you hear me? No, okay.
Yeah, that's clear. Thank you.
Excellent. What I'm saying is actually regarding the situations we've been in about the SPLA. Remember that many of us have joined SPLA in the past, while some were reluctant and all that, or in between. So my issue is that did Equatoria, by the time when those SPLA come in 2005, did they really work hard to present their case, their issue that there should be an equal treatment between us and the others? In another way, did we fight for our rights before we could be today? Before our situation today, where we are put in, where we have no word either in constitutions making or anything else and all that, other than loyalty. You have to be an agent, double agents, the main agents against your people. Then you will have the chance. That's my main concern. I wanted to know from you guys.
Yeah.
So that the audience may understand also as well. Thank you.
Thanks, CJ. This is really good question. For me, I'll just keep it short because of the time. It's just no, they have never worked hard. They have never tried. Those Equatorians, leaders or elders or brothers, they have gone in there with the mindset of the SPLA. I think most of them were crippled even during the time of the Bush. They were crippled by the Dinka, what you call hegemony, the domination, during the days of John Garang. So I think this fear has crippled into them, and the control, have taken over them. So these people have come with a mindset of coming to dominate, and they have a particular agenda to execute, and they did not have time. Either they will kill them, or either they have to be like most of them, like our some of our brothers that were deployed somewhere to work outside, outside Juba and stuff like that. So I just don't want to mention names because some people will start crying when they hear us mentioning names. So I think no, they did not try it, because like while these people were this Dinka were doing these agendas of theirs, Nuer has empowered their people. But if our Equatorians leaders know, they have never tried, they have never educated our people. There were just rumors going around saying that tomorrow Dinka is gonna do this, gonna do that, which is coming from them, but they have never empowered, they have never tried. So this is what I will just leave it here.
Hello. Oh, thanks a lot. Okay. Yeah, let's see. Asantia, are you there? Can you give us your perspective as well? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much once again. Yeah, in regards to the question you asked, yeah, indeed, I don't know what went wrong, but I can say also there's so many things that happened before this 2005. But I think from the way those Equatorians who were really having that, let me say the positions that they were really close to position that they can even try to like air their points about concerning Equatoria. I think there are some games also the hegemonies played on the Equatorians, because even the signing of the peace, we have so many Equatorians intellectual, but this issue even of bringing the capital to central Equatoria, it's not a good idea, because they have experienced what the Dinka government were doing in the bush, and it would have just come to them like an alert. But also I'm not so sure, but I've heard so many Equatorians who are against that. Most of them got eliminated, and some of them, they did some conspiracies, and those who love money also were given money for them to push the elders to agree for that, for like convincing them that Equatoria will benefit when the capital is brought to Equatoria, which when the Dinka government entered Equatoria, Equatorians could see the intimidation. But the way we still say we are politically weak, and we don't want to unite like for our own goal as Equatorians, because Dinkas were bringing their villagers from their villages there and putting uniforms on them and talking to them in their mother tongue to start like joining different groups. Equatorians here, most of them, they were not focusing like to join military under their Equatorians. So there's some games that these people were ready when we were not ready from the beginning. I will just leave it here.
Good, thank you. Well, I will go to Brother Hakim as well. If you have any addition, please. I'm sorry, I interrupt you last time. I mean, the earlier time.
Yeah. I think there were many issues. For example, you have got the issues of human rights abuses during the struggle, and then these human rights abuses took place in Equatoria. But there was no voice that spoke or took this as a warning. If you remember the Chukdum crisis in 1999, and the also, for example, when there was this South-South dialogue which took place in the lead up to the implementation of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, or in the lead up to the signing of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement. So you also had, for example, the only other forces that could have made representations on behalf of Equatoria was the Equatoria Defense Forces, the group of Martin Kenyi, those of Theophilus Ochang, and those were Equatorians who participated in the South-South dialogue. So if anybody was in a position to buttress the rights and advocate for the rights of the people of Equatoria, then Equatorial People's Defense Forces, with their leadership, should have been the lead on that. But then, after the discussions through the dialogue, the South-South dialogue, they then sided with the SPLM without any preconditions. And I think the main agenda was that people kind of like fell into this position of saying, we want our independence. We want to delay any discussions, any confrontational issues that may be addressed internally through the constitution making process. For example, that initially people wanted to focus on self-determination. That this opportunity for us to wait for 6 years, cast our vote, and then we can come back and return to addressing some of our internal issues. And I think this is where most Equatorians were caught up in. There were the 4 people who wanted really South Sudan to be independent, and they participated in the referendum in very large numbers. If any people were really serious about supporting the agenda of self-determination, I think Equatorians were among the people who really stood for separation, and that's why people kind of had this sense of security, saying that, look, we have now been given opportunity to exercise self-determination, and let's not put that at risk. Let's cast our vote and become an independent country, and then after that we'll look at our internal issues. This is the false sense of security that people had, and you probably all recall later the sentiments expressed by people like individuals like Dr. Wane Tombe, who were very cynical about what's going to befall Equatoria, and his words came to be true. And so politically, there was, for example, Equatoria Civic Association. Equatoria Civic Association was formed in the UK, led by those of Martin Elia and a group of other Equatorians. And now, when this was taking place, those of Bonamolwal later came and transformed this Equatoria Civic Forum to become South Sudan Democratic Forum. And when they went to this South-South dialogue, they went as South Sudan Democratic Forum. They did not go as Equatoria Civic Association, Civic Forum. It was initially Equatoria Civic Forum, and then it transformed itself to become as South Sudan Democratic Forum. And this now became a vehicle for Bono Malwal to project his political views on the back of South Sudan Democratic Forum, which was originally formed by Equatorians as Equatoria Civic Forum. So this is where perhaps there would have been opportunity for Equatorians at that point in time to raise this agenda. But the unfortunate thing was that it now projected itself as South Sudan Democratic Forum, and therefore perhaps was more influenced by Bono Malwan and other leaders within the Democratic Forum. And so Martin Elia just became a mouthpiece And this is what you all see today. Martin has become, an ally of Salva Kiir, and South Sudan Democratic Forum at the time, through those of Dom Bonham as well, wanted to challenge Dr. Dr. John Garang, and they were supporting Salva Kiir. You remember the 1994. You remember the crisis that took place within the SPLM and the the Rumbek meetings and all of that, where there was a split that was developing just in 2004, before the signing of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement. So politically, Equatoria was not well represented. And anything, they were represented in a very minor role. I went to the Chukdum conference in just before the formation of the government, the unity government, and we attended a conference in Chukdum where Equatorians came together to. There were three conventions, I think, three conferences, one in Yei, one in Chukdum for Eastern Equatoria, and so on. So Equatorians gathered to make nominations to people who will be serving in the unity government and in the southern government during the transition period. And so, from my recollection, attending that meeting, I actually traveled from the UK to go and attend the meeting, and the focus was really, just on how Eastern Equatoria was going to nominate, people. How in the conference, through the conference nominated people like who will be the governor of Eastern Equatoria, for example, who are the commissioners and so on, and then nominate also people who will serve in the national government, right? And I was nominated through that conference to be the a member of the national unity government, representing Eastern Equatoria in the national parliament in Khartoum, and the reason, and that because some of us had both command of English and Arabic, and so we're kind of like nominated to go and serve in the National Assembly on the ticket of SPLM. And this was, the thinking was just really, how are we going to participate in this process to bring about self-determination and to prepare for independence. But when I went to Khartoum, and there was no real institutions in place. It was just very, very chaotic, and there was also, this mistrust of people who came from the diaspora. Even some of my colleagues who were with me in the university and were part of SPLM, kind of like, treated us with an arm's length, sort of like attitudes and so on. So I found that it was not really helpful. You just went there to not contribute anything. So I decided to resign, and I just left. They said I would probably find a better job for me to do independently rather than be a member of parliament in Khartoum. So I resigned and I came back, and because I had the initiative of WAMDIS, which we established it, and I thought that was a better investment for the country, from my perspective, than going to be a member of parliament in Khartoum. That wasn't really contributing any value, and because of the machinations that were taking place within the SPLM, where they just simply concentrated power and everything in the hands of very, very few people. So that is the degree to which you can possibly say Equatorians were not really politically organized to make strong representations in terms of how the governance institutions and also the preparations for having a federal system of government, for example, or going to 3 regions. And they just, they didn't challenge the 10 states. They said, we just follow what the agreement was, what was agreed in the agreement to go for the 10 states. But I think just not to take too long, I would say that there was hope. There was great hope for people to exercise what they have waited for a very long time. And everybody kind of wanted to delay anything else, any other issues, put them off until after the referendum, so that we kept our unity as South Sudanese. And that's where we neglected to really make strong representations about even the process of transition itself, how we should manage the process of transition. And as a result, you can see that SPLM concentrated powers in its hand. It started corruption from day one. So yeah, I would say first, there were no political institutions that really represented the interests of Equatoria. The Equatorial Defense Forces, decided to go along with the agreement in the sense that things will be done later on. We'll address issues later. That's on the side of the Equatorial Defense Forces. And then on the side of South Sudan Democratic Forum, it was dominated by Bona. And then there were other political organizations internally, like those of, Solid Rock, who returned to this USAP. But they were also kind of supporting SPLM blindly. Most of these political organizations were saying, let's allow a referendum to take place. SPLM is the one now pushing for referendum, and Salva Kiir was in charge, and he believes in the separation of South Sudan, so let's give him a chance. You see, so that's how we kind of complacently allowed this to lead to the situation that we are in now.
Okay. Just quick point in there, what you mentioned, and then I have something I wanted to read to you guys so we can comment.
Yeah.
Sorry, CJ, if you don't mind, I interrupt you in a minute.
I
point that I want
to shift. No, I was trying to shift the question to you so that you finish it, and then we go ahead. Go ahead. Never mind.
Okay, just a quick point to Brother Hakim. Very important. He just said that. So what I want to confirm is that when you were watching these things, that means the regime, or today the regime that is so-called SPLM, or the SPLM in general as an organization, so it's completely it's entirely controlled under one tribe. Do you agree? Is it that what I'm getting from?
Yes, it is. It is dominated by the figure of John Garang and those closely in his network.
From his own
for
tribes,
example, he brought
tribe of Dinka.
Yeah. For example, if you just take it this way, right? The top political military high command, which is still existed, mostly dominated by one tribe, and also if you look at the representation of Equatorians, it was only those who served in SPLM, like Samson Kwaje, who was the Secretary for Information, and then they brought other intellectuals who were based in Kenya, like those of Shirino Heteng, and then you have those of what's her name, this Ann Ito, and then you have, of course, Waniga, and then you have the other leaders, the military leaders like Botem Amur, and you also have those of Thomas Cirillo and so on, and Jadala, and a few others. These military leaders, so to speak, did not want to risk addressing political issues. And they kind of stayed away from politics and just concentrated on the side of the military. And I remember they made a representation in Rumbek about the lack of promotion of Equatorians in the SPLA, and that was about it. That was the only thing, I guess. Some of these military leaders, like Obote Mamour, Jadalla, Thomas Shirillo, and those of Ladugore, raised the voice in Rumbek, which was rumored to be around this issue that Equatorians were not being promoted in the SPLA, high-ranking positions. And so that was it. That was the only thing that we heard about.
The only complaint that it came from Equatoria.
The only complaint, yes, exactly. That's what I remember. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Attica. Yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
just a quick question, because go ahead. Yeah, speak. Go ahead. Yeah, finish your question. So I have something.
Yeah, it's your turn now.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't get the question earlier because I was having a hard time. I told you it was my connection here, but
Yeah, for me,
I'm
what
able
I
to
can say,
understand.
well, excuse me. There are more many information. There are more many, details, that Brother Hakim have just brought up. Most probably we'll have a special meeting on that, special program or schedule for, program for that particular point.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now, I don't know. Do you have anything to say about that, or should we go to the next question?
Yeah, go to the next question because I missed the question, so it's not
Well
a
done,
problem because we need to focus on time. We'll go ahead to the
Well
next
done. I
question,
appreciate
and
it. Okay.
I'll just try, and I will add some highlight here for something that because also I want everyone to kind of like get into it. But go ahead. The question is.
Yeah, actually, it says regarding the Mr. Allen's, reports based on what it says.
Alan
It
Boswell.
says the government in Juba. Meanwhile, remember that? I guess that is page 1. I remember. The government in Juba it says lack the capacity and legal legitimacy. You understand?
Yeah.
Elaborate on the word legitimacy here to determine
Yes.
to definitely stamp out rebellions. You understand? Because with the ongoing things, the rebels, SPLA and all that. So he went on to say that both sides should pursue what a negotiation to set settlement. Okay, subject within South Sudan transitional period. Now, based on this particular point, as Equatorians, where do you think our position is at this time? Did this man is Alan here? Did he means the SPLA and IO, or he means Equatoria and the current illegitimate government?
Okay.
So if so, hold it. If so, if it means Equatoria, now what do you think the best things should Equatoria do at this particular point too? Thank you.
Okay, what do you think Equatoria is supposed to do in this particular thing? I think what we're doing right now, campaigning for Equatoria to have a self-autonomy.
Should we go for negotiations? We don't have any door open for negotiation at the meantime as Equatorians.
I got you.
As PLA, as IO have the chance. They got the chance. Ever since they have all these chances. If indeed the guy is talking about Equatoria in this particular report, as we have read it and understood it, then here the main point is Equatoria. Go ahead.
I think
okay.
let me can I just
jump in. Jump in, and then I will try to say go ahead, jump in.
I think the report is simply saying you've got this conflict in Equatoria. There's not much attention that is being paid to it, and that for example the parties to the revitalized agreement are just going forward with the implementation of the agreement, which is not obviously not effective. They're not implementing it in letter and spirit, and it's like saying, okay, and he was really focusing on the war in Equatoria, or on the part of NAS, and saying that the idea of going forward without Equatoria, or without representing or allowing room for the interest of Equatoria, is not legitimate. It's not right, and he's kind of suggesting that Thomas should be accommodated, and Thomas could be accommodated in the constitution making process, because that is where the opportunity arises for everybody to contribute to the constitution making process, and therefore that maybe, just maybe, Thomas can be sort of invited to come in to participate in the constitution making process, so that so that this process is inclusive. That's one thing that he's suggesting. Okay, so and of course this is where negotiation, it's like negotiation with the government should possibly focus to accommodate, the demands of NAS through the constitution making process. That's one aspect of what the report is talking about. But of course, he's also saying this. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just asking. Do you agree that? Do you mean? So I know this is what you interpret from the Alan Boswell, but do you agree that such thing have to be done from the side, like you said, NAS supposed to be participated in that? Because remember, the question was, is this the regime is illegitimate? The question itself, the regime. I remember. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, but I think NAS itself may not accept that, because NAS is talking about the root causes of the conflict, that they rejected signing this revitalized agreement because the agreement did not address the root causes of the conflict. So, and not that the constitution making process, maybe in their view, would address the root causes. And maybe they want to raise it. We don't know. Maybe they want to raise it in the talks with the government. We don't know the strategy of NAS on this. But at least the public position of NAS is that they are, they are not supporting this agreement, because this agreement has not addressed itself to the root causes, and therefore they want the negotiation to address the root causes, and then come out with a solution to how these root causes would be addressed. Okay, that's the position of NAS. In terms of whether this suggestion of negotiation is the right approach to, like, say, accommodate NAS through the constitution making process, and therefore try to address this problem through the constitution making process. The problem is that these people in power in Juba, first of all, they are illegitimate. The state has failed, and they do not have the political will, nor do they have the thought processes to make the constitution making process to be people driven. You've already seen that they're talking about the constitution making process, which is going to bring appointees, members of the revitalized agreement itself, right? To drive this constitution making process. So it makes it government driven. And they're relying on the legislative assembly, which is appointed, wholly appointed, to ratify the constitution, right?
Okay.
And even people who go to the conference, the so-called constitutional conference, will be people who will be appointed, right? So the whole process is a farce, right? There's no legitimate process that this regime can, the process constitution making should be entirely independent from this government.
Well, okay, all right. Let me interject.
So I don't agree. I don't
Can
agree.
I interject?
Yeah, I don't agree with that. The principle is I don't agree with that approach.
You don't agree with what you mean? You don't agree with what you mean?
With this suggestion of negotiation.
Oh, you mean in the assessment of the report? You mean in the report?
No.
Negotiation.
Like, say, for example,
the negotiation. Oh, okay, on the idea of okay,
of accommodating, making the assumption that if they make the assumption that Thomas is representing interests of Equatoria, then therefore Thomas should be accommodated in the constitution making process to represent the interests of Equatoria. You see, this is the assumption.
Of course, we don't agree on that.
Yeah, we don't agree on that.
Let's hear from would you please? Let's hear from Didi and Cynthia. Any one of them, please jump in.
Okay, go ahead, Santa. But yeah, go ahead. So
already, because I thought you were answering a question or something.
Yeah, I was supposed to. Yeah, but go ahead. You can go ahead. I will come up last. Don't worry. Go ahead. Go ahead, guys.
I'll let Asanto answer it. Yeah. If she can,
Hello? You hear me, guys? Go ahead. Whoever is there now to speak, our sisters, go ahead. Asantua?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello?
All right.
We need
Asento, I
repeat the
think
question?
she's not.
Okay.
All right. Let me just
Yeah.
interrupt. And yeah, you're here. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Asento, because we were waiting for you to speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, it was just the network. I was not getting you guys. So what was the last question? Just briefly so that I can.
Yeah,
You didn't hear the rest? Okay, go ahead, CJ. Go back.
Yeah, the question was mainly, and of course, the government in Juba is, of course, according to what he says, is that it's lacking what you call a capacity
Legitimacy.
and legitimacy. All right. So none of them could, let's say, to definitively stem out rebellion. So it means eliminate it or whatever it is. So he went on to say that, the same journalist, of course, Alan, he went on to say that, the only way was like a suggestion that, both sides should go pursue what you call negotiations to settle the settlement of this issue of South Sudan conflict. So it will come to rest. So here the point is, under this particular point, what do you think exactly? Is it good to go for negotiations, or you disagree? If disagree, please explain why.
Yeah, and add to that, he said, "What should Equatoria do in that matter?" But go ahead, Asanta. I hope you guys you heard the question.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't agree with Equatoria to go for the negotiation because it's just a waste of time and maybe government buying time, or maybe let me say the opposition also buying just time, because at the end of the day, government is not going to agree with what Equatorians are going to put in the table because they have already managed to like dominate halfway. It's just something for them, final touches for them to like be a whole power in Equatoria, because the way they are really dividing us, it's just the divide and rule kind of tactics, the way Alan mentioned in his points in the report. So what we are going to face as Equatorians is this challenge of how we can come together and powerful as Equatoria before even looking into that military kind of defending ourselves. Like us, Equatorian all over the world, how can we come together and then bring our words together? Because if we come strongly together as Equatorians, we will have that power of also contacting Equatorians who are on different oppositions, talking to them direct, and even we can try to see how we can be able to convince even those that are in the government. So, but I don't think those that are in the government, they will represent us, because the way even the games they're playing, most of them are the one bringing us down because of their personal interests. So as Equatorians, it's only the challenge that we need to come together, because when we come together, then we will have good ideas for Equatoria, and then we will be able to discuss these issues openly with maybe Thomas Cirillo the NAS, or maybe the other group of political parties that are having our own Sons of Equatoria. Because when we also being divided everywhere, everybody have their own part, it's also not giving that good platform for someone to like think of the right way of how we can contact them. Because even this negotiation, we are supposed to also know what are their benefit for the Equatorians. But government is not going to sign this kind of points that they put for the federalism, because already they are saying they are already in federalism with those of RIAC. It's only something that they're just playing. If this 20% of Malong is convinced later on, and then Malong is able to get in, they will brush even us out. They will never hear now. They will just be coming as one force together against even the military of Equatorians within Equatoria region and finish them. So it's just our prayers that they don't agree so fast. And our luck is that because Akolkur is also not agreeing with Malong, so things are not becoming easy for Malong to get in. But if that 20% of his request from the government, if it is signed and agreed, Malong will get in. Then they will just look at everybody that's out now is out, the one that is in is in. So we have that challenge of working on our unity. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I know one day also we will have a good meeting with all the Equatorians who are representing in different platforms and something like this, so that we can create awareness or something like that. I'll leave it here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hadassah? Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's quite great what you great. I think I'll say like I think this is a chance. This is really a golden chance for us to use, to get out of this cycle. Like cycle going on and on and on, back to negotiate. We've been negotiating in the entire of our life, negotiation just based on negotiation. If you see what is happening with the positions of Soma that they're doing with what do you call it? With the in Rome, let me say in Rome, this it's the same thing. They're just negotiating, sitting down in negotiation, compromising. It comes down to like you giving a lot to the regime, compromising that you come under them. And if you see, it's the same thing that Riek has negotiated with the government, and resulting into this arrest that he has no power. Rather than now, what he's doing is just accomplishing what Kir wants, the agenda of Kir and his tribe. So I feel like we got a chance here. Either we use this chance and solve our problem once and for good, that we don't have to come down and sit and cry, mourn, talk about these things again. Because what are we gaining here? Let's look at the advantage of what good can come out of us focusing in our agendas and moving forward with the creation of what we're doing, to create ourselves and be as a nation by ourselves, and use this chance really well, rather than we going back and be in turmoil, in wars and today, one day you're in peace, tomorrow you're in fight, one day you're just sitting down to negotiate peace and ceasefires, and then the next minute the ceasefires are broken, and then there's a fight, and then people are not moving forward this circle, So let's ask ourselves, what are we gaining? To begin with, this group of Upper Nile, they're not even like your siblings or related to you or anything like that for you to sacrifice that. At least this is my brother, this is my blood. We are entirely a different region, a nation of Equatoria. We need to understand, if it's not ringing a bell to anybody's ear, let it ring from now. We are a nation by ourselves that has been joined with what is called South Sudan. So I think this is a chance for us to opt ourselves out from this critical barbaric situation that is going on. Yeah, I'll just let it go here. I'll leave it
I
here.
appreciate that. Atika?
I think my
brother
battery
Hakim
was
wanted to mention something.
Yeah,
my
we'll come to
battery.
Hakim. Hakim will have a chance, definitely.
Yeah. Let him speak, because I will come back.
Okay, good. Thank you. Go.
Yeah, just my battery is going down, so I need to just briefly maybe go on and charge.
I know. I think we have to. Sorry. Yeah, I know. I think we're gonna like what I'm gonna do is because this thing is it's gonna be a topic that we need to talk, and actually we kind of change a little bit things. But what we will do is the same episode that we have now spoken, the first part of the explanation of this topic. We're gonna have this is like we're gonna say part one of this one, because it's a part. It's because we have 3 episodes we're supposed to run. 3 topics we have to speak about in the same report. So what we will do, this is the first part of the report. So what we do is we're gonna make it into 2. That way we can have time and chance to continue explaining it. So if you guys agree on that, we can do that this time. We're going to short it up for a moment, but I'll give Hakim his point because I know his battery. And I apologize, guys, because I have some issues with my technical. If not that, I would have been able to, doing it perfectly. But go ahead.
Right.
Hakim, you said you want to comment something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I just wanted to take 2 or 3 points, which are really very crucial. And first of all, the Institute for Peace, the Institute of Peace, is obviously advocating for peaceful means, peaceful methods, and only pointing out the factual situation, the circumstances surrounding Equatoria. And I think in the description of this situation that we're facing in Equatoria, it very, very clearly articulated this point, that Equatoria has a legitimate interest. And it talked about the desire of Equatorians, in fact, the demand of Equatorians for a shared sovereignty, and how that shared sovereignty can actually be achieved. And that, for example, he talked about self-determination and the spectrum of self-determination in terms of mapping it against this shared sovereignty concept. So Equatorians want to govern themselves. That is a right, is a matter of right. And he also talked about the failure of the state. So Equatorians have every right, right, to have self-determination in terms of where they stand in this. What is their political state, political future? And that's where, for example, he did mention about confederation of states and autonomy and federation. For example, NAS is calling for federation, okay, federation in South Sudan, as reflecting aspirations of Equatorians. But also, what NAS is presenting, NAS is not presenting Equatoria as a nation in its approach. It does not take Equatoria as a nation. It does not, advocate for Equatoria as a nation. That's why it is not addressing the problem of Equatoria as being a representative of Equatoria. Okay, it wants to position itself as a national movement, which is not necessarily only focusing on the grievances or the rights of the people of Equatoria. And that's why it cannot articulate, for example, the issue of confederation, like having autonomy for Equatoria, right? It talks about, federation in a very general way, it doesn't talk about, for example, confederation, that Equatorians want to, this level of, devolution of power to Equatoria, right? As a region, to be an autonomous region, and for the other parts of the country also to autonomously govern themselves, right? So, but if you are advocating for Equatoria as a nation, you look at Equatoria as a nation with entitlements to self-determination, with entitlements to govern itself, then you project, the interests of Equatoria more clearly, right? Not just بطريقة معمومة يعني أنه جنوبيين كلها عاوزين federation and so on, right? And there is a situation here where there is no one who is speaking clearly for the rights of the people of Equatoria as a people, as a nation. And that's where Equatoria becomes, this is why Equatoria is described as being the weakest link. And also, Equatoria does not have clear leadership for where it wants to go, right? Where it wants to go. Its political status. For example, do Equatorians want a federal system? Do they want a confederation where there is a lot more power to them to become autonomous in this sort of situation? Or even for that matter, to self-determine themselves as to whether they want a confederal system, a federation, or they even want to, form a different country. Because the issue here is that the country that they live in today is no longer protecting the rights of the people of Equatoria. Their rights are not protected as a people, as well as their human rights. You have 1.2 million Equatorians in refugees, as refugees. You have their homes being burned down. You have, atrocities being committed against them, right? And then people are talking about constitution-making process, which excludes all of these 1.2 million people in refugee camps, right? So someone has to stand up and say, Equatoria is a nation. It is entitled to the rights of the people, and as well as international, human rights conventions, entitled to human rights, which are defined in international conventions and so on. So Equatoria needs to clearly come up as a people, unite and protect their interests, that the state is no longer preserving their interests collectively as Equatorians, and therefore they're entitled to self-determination to stand up and govern themselves. This is what is missing. This is, in my view, is what the report is saying, that there is no clear political leadership in Equatoria, right? People are politically disunited. So it is a challenge for us as Equatorians to address this. And I think Assunta addressed this point by saying, let's take this opportunity, to really redefine where we stand on these issues, on these crucial issues.
Let me interject.
Yeah. So just a minute. One last point is this, that I wanted to just to buttress this point, that, for example, when we started with the Equatoria to Equatoria dialogue last year, these were the questions that we're raising, that Equatoria needs to be able to exercise, political power, which it's not exercising today. And because we are fragmented, we need to unite Equatorians to come together, and then we can begin to articulate in our own words, by our own voices, what we want for Equatoria. And that's why we came up with the Equatorial People's Declaration and Charter of Rights. These rights include the right to self-determination. These rights include the right to protect, to resist oppression, to make a common contribution, and a whole range of other rights, okay? And I think Equatorians should not disagree about these rights, because these rights belong to us, they belong to any other group of people in South Sudan as well. So what's important is that what you're talking about, the Sunta saying we need to come together. This is the process that we're going through now. And it started in diaspora through a dialogue process, through establishment of Equatorial People's Alliance, and then trying now to bring Equatorians together so that we move forward together. We show ourselves as one people, one nation, united, and have a voice, and they have a right, so that the whole world has to know. And this has been articulated very clearly in the report as well, that Equatoria deserves to have self-determination for itself in terms of its political status, future political status. And I think that's the point that we need to make. We are already starting to do that. So I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you. You want to interject, CJ, before I put my answer?
Yes, sir.
Well,
it looks like, well, for me, as far as Equatoria, the unity of Equatoria, it was clear, when we went to DC as civil association, Equatorial Civil Association, speaking for the people, not for any politicians or any gun holders. When we spoke over there, it was clear. Our voice was clear worldwide. We're advocating the point of what? For an independent Equatoria based because of the land. So in the state, well, as we can see, in the state of coming together, just binding together as brothers and sisters, we could see over time, people have begun to establish their own, start moving up and down. That is the kind of conflicts that would put us in jeopardy or put our situation in jeopardy. That's why the point is clear. It is the people. We should speak as a people, not politicians or military, somebody who's holding the guns. Because after all, it is the people who will decide our destiny. It is the people. We should have that lesson from the SPLA, what happened in the SPLA. Based on what Hakim have said, there is a total disarray by the time when those Equatoria were there. They're almost a division. It was because of the divisions, that's why we lost everything. We seem to have lost everything in the earlier days. If we were to unite under one umbrella, which is the people, not politicians or anyone else, that means, we will have to appoint you, and then you will go, you will be down there, up there. Once you are there, you will have the voice, we'll have to stand with you, and then you will speak on the name, under the what? In the name of the people. The voice will be a people, because whoever speaks as politicians is always for his interest, whether we like it or not, as well as anyone who's holding guns. If it's not from the people, then it's a lost case. So I urge all Equatorians, we need to come together as a people in the first place, and then hold out our banner, because we have the issue of the land that is now it's not subject to any negotiations whatsoever. If indeed we know what is the value of the land, and I believe that most of us know, but yet in time of trouble, in time of temptations, people used to shift left and right. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. Thank you, CJ. Just to answer your point that you just mentioned about this, I know you said a lot, and I've heard everybody. I agree with everyone here. There's no any disagreement, but there's one thing I can add on it. one of them, what should Equatoria do? I think so. I agree. I think my answer would be similar to all who answered earlier before me. That Equatoria must look at themselves as one people, like we always say, and it's something because we believe in it. When I speak this thing, is not something that I have to speak for the sake of talk. Like others, sometimes they believe they misunderstand us when we come up here and speak to you guys. We don't speak to you because we love people to acknowledge us or to recognize us that we're speaking for in behalf of our people. We're doing this because we are all in this together. We are all in the same boat. The boat that we are in is sinking. And if we don't work together as team and we don't advocate for the right of how to block the hole that is trying to drown us, then we have no choice to go forward as a society, as Equatorian. Because today you see our land is taken. As like Mr. Sijab mentioned, Equatorial land is more important as the people. So let us not focus on political ideology, because the political ideology has nothing to do with solution. It will never bring solution. If you see politicians can bring solution, you would have seen so many countries in peace. You would have never seen any political parties come and challenge another political parties. So I will say it in Arabic. لو كان السياسيين أو السياسة هو حل لقضايا مشاريع كتير في بلاد كان متقدم ولا متأخر، ما كان بيكون في منافسين سياسيين بيتنازعوا للسلطة لدرجة نمن حتى البلاد مرات بيجي الشعب والبلد والأرض هم بيكونوا أذية بتاع المشكلة ده. So what I'm trying to say to my brothers and sisters of Greater Equatoria, we are already the solution. And that's why we always advocate to you from the point that we have been talking about these things. And thank God I will call him a brother, Alan Boswell. He's a journalist. I've encountered him before. So أنا تعرفت عليه قبل وعرفته. And the شخصية ده very much importantly, he articulated what we are saying, that the crisis in South Sudan, he even put it in a very, very articulate point. He even had some different, he started from the beginning to the end, and then he put his last word analysis. And that's why we will come back هنجي في حلقات أخرى عشان نتكلم عن مواضيع ده أكتر، لأنه طبعا هو موضوع مهم جدا، ولازم إحنا كلنا نسمع ونستوعب الكلام ده، لأنه الكلام ده جاي it's a word that comes from an outside perspective، من نظرة بتاع واحد في خارج المركب أو خارج البلد، and he sees exactly what's going on, and then he look at Equatoria are the one who are losing. So in this position that our brothers and sisters have mentioned, is all I agree with them, but what Equatoria need to do is they always have to look at themselves as one people, that they are the solution. Like also Mr. CJ mentioned that we don't have to look at any political organization or any organization to be the solution, because all these things, all these organizations, they are just a tool to build the bridge for our salvation. We the people are the salvation of our own self, not the organizations, not the privileges, not the names, not the one person, not two people. It's the whole community of all Equatorians together. And that's why I say we Equatorians need to be very, very serious and very, very articulate. And also we have to also understand that today we have enemies who will try everything, even though we have enemies within and we have enemies outside. And they will try everything to fail us as communities of Equatoria to succeed, because they have interest for themselves to gain. When they see us fail, they gain. And you have seen it. Those who are still in SPLM, they don't want to get out of SPLM because they know if they got out of SPLM, they will lose their benefit. And their benefit is the bribery that they get from those regimes, like the SPLM bribing Waniga, Lomoro, and you've seen all these characters. What they're doing, they are puppets. They accepted to be used by these people. The failure comes from Equatorian who built themselves leaders, but they never came and consulted the people. Today we are coming to you as organizations, talking to you as brothers and sisters. We are one people, because we see you are more important than any politician. We see you are more valuable and more powerful than any one person who can have all the titles in the world. You Equatorians are the power to everything. And this is why we said what Equatoria should do. Equatoria should stand up as people. Let us not worry about boots in the ground, because when we are in the same idea or the same mind, everything will be possible. But if we don't have the same mind to change the situation, it will be impossible. So I see a lot of people who are very much wanted to understand the problem of Equatoria. Is just look at our life. We are all living in diaspora. You know, if you're inside the country, you live like a diaspora. How many Equatorians inside Juba, they live like a diaspora? They treat it like foreigners. They're not even treated like the original owners of the land. So why are we holding back the truth that we need to fight for our right? Why are we scared? Why are we always trying to dodge the situation and dilly-dally all these things? لأننا قاعدين نخاف. لأننا بنخاف fight for حقنا. عشان كده عندنا الحق all the way to fight for it. I know I'm mixing Arabic because I know some people might understand Arabic, but I want everybody to understand it because we're talking to you here. We are all here concerned. Look at our brothers and sisters, Brother Hakim and Sister Dikete Melo. All of them are here in their time, dedicating their time and effort for us to come together so we can do whatever the solution. This is what this report is very important, because this report, finally, somebody from the Western countries and from the Western media, finally, spoke about us. You know how many times we're watching, they always talk about the Upper Nile, the Nuer Dinka conflict. They talk about the issues that they always try to avoid bringing the other tribes as if we are nothing. We are part of this nation when we voted, but now we are neglected and dismissed. So now we have the biggest right. Even this guy, even in his message, if you look at it very carefully, he's explaining to us, we can do this, that Equatoria can become a nation. He's not biased. He's not playing a biased system here. He's just putting the report as it is. He's reporting the chaos and the misery of Equatoria, because even he mentioned something very important, which I was trying to highlight here. He said 2016, in the second half, 2016, that's where the second conflict started again. He said the violence erupted across Equatoria, hundreds of thousands of Equatorians fleeing. You know, they fled and poured into Uganda and other countries, adding to what is called Africa's largest refugee exodus. Taban, in Uganda is the biggest refugee camp exodus since 1994 Rwanda genocide. Even and we're going to go deep into this report later, because even he mentioned something that it's already been defined as a genocide, what's happening to Equatoria, because Equatoria have been defenseless. Equatoria have been chased away. Equatoria has been, marginalized to the point that they have nothing to be able to fight for themselves. And then when you see all the other Equatorian leaders, if it was in the opposition or in the regime, they are not talking about Equatoria. And this is what frustrates us as Equatorian who are crying for Equatoria right. Because if you are an Equatorian, you're neglecting your people. Even if you're standing in the position of trying to, if you're in a justice, say you're a policeman, and you see your brother is being abused, yet you're trying to play justice for the same court that has been encouraging criminals to continue being free, then you need to quit that job and stand with your people and fight for justice in the way that just because justice is supposed to stand for the innocent. But what we see today, there is injustice against Equatorian, and that's why we are Equatorian advocating for Equatoria right, even to the point we went extreme for the independence of Equatoria, because Equatoria need to be independent without any question. So I want to say this here, about this some region, because they said, and I know some people who don't like what we're saying. Good luck if they don't like we talk too much. It's okay, because it's not about talking, my brother. Even the international community have spoken out about this. That's why we're coming here to analyze. We're not here coming to make you happy. If you don't like it, you can go ahead, take a hike, because we're talking about something very important. It's not about a talk. It's about the issue that I see, because most of those who call they're taking action, when they take action and they pretend to be, or they are Equatorian, but they're taking action. Most of the action is going in the wrong side. You see some Equatorian joining IO, Equatorian join SPLA, Equatorian join other opposition, has nothing to do with Equatoria right. So if we're talking here, we're not talking for the sake of talk. We're talking here because we see the pain. We see the wrong. Because how many young men will die in the field for the wrong idea, for the wrong thing? Instead, I'll be proud if I died for my land. I'll be proud if I see my son or my brother die for the land instead of die for a politician or die for a regime that is tribal. So please, those who don't like what we say, they can take a hike, find where they make him happy, sing a song, whatever you want. But let me go back. So this report here mentioned Rwanda. because Rwanda was the biggest genocide that it took a whole world to see the genocide, and they were quiet. But thank to God, there is somebody who felt the pain and he stood up. So he said, what? You know, even our population is being depopulated from homes. You know, that to avoid, even some people begin to run away to avoid violence. Our people are defenseless. You know, and what the regime is doing, and this is what he mentioned here, the regime is doing the same thing that the Bashir used to do during the conflict with the South. You know, when we are in the one country. South Sudan today, under this tribal regime, is playing the same tactic of Omar al-Bashir, because there's nothing new about the SPLM. All of the tactic they're playing is the same thing. Delay tactic, they play negotiation tactic. That's Omar al-Bashir. Even the agreement that has happened later, it was built in Khartoum. And the same regime that was killing our people. And as we said, and my brother Hakim mentioned earlier, that this killing of our people that was happening, I mean, these things that happened during the negotiation of Khartoum, like these people were already setting up what to do. So they were isolating Equatoria, even though Equatoria has a big part in it. And then they took the Juba capital, they took all these things, and they even marginalized the officers of Equatoria, who were once part of this SPLM, as if they are not important. So these things is a clear, you know, clear message or clear thing to us. We're supposed to wake up, instead of us trying to undermine the people who are speaking bluntly and speaking very clear to everyone to wake up. Some people wanted to mock us and say that Equatoria know how to talk. When did Equatoria talk? All these years, the BGs are the one who talking in the media. All the time they talk about bracing themselves. Even up to the international community, they said that they're the one who liberated the country. Where were you? Those who are now writing us that we talk too much. Where were they? Were they sitting there in the media talking that Equatoria stood up for, you know, we are Equatorian, talk about our right? So please, if you don't like what we're saying and you are Equatorian who are just bought by the regime, you can find a place where the regime can help you, or you can go back into Juba and get a job, but don't come up here and talk to us when we're talking about the country and the people of Equatoria and the land that has been taken away from us. So I won't go far, but I say to CJ, my answer is that Equatoria is supposed to act, and we have to act as a one people, and I agree with everyone who mentioned it, that we are one voice, you know, and let's not look at ourselves as an organization when we are working together. Let's not look at ourselves as individuals when working together. We have to work together as one voice of the people of Equatoria, because we represent them. And we in diaspora does not mean that we are better than the people down there because we know we got so much opportunities or we know better. No, we are your voices down there. Those who are sitting down there suffering and dying, we are your voices. But what we do it humbly. We sit here not to promote ourselves. We're here to stand for every voice that is coming up to fight for our Equatoria. Thank you. And I'll give it to you guys back. So this is my point here. But I hope you understood this, that the guys, he mentioned very important that the genocide, you know, that he considered this, you know, exodus of Equatorian from Equatorial land and the displacement of them and killing them is becoming a genocidal action by the regime. Because remember, the regime is illegitimate, as we said, and the regime is a tribal regime. So now this is something that every Equatorian understands, that there is nothing called nationalism in this country when the other two regions are playing the same role to kill us. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Yeah, Etika, I think, you know, it's time, you know, we come to an end. You know, we just wrap it up, please. Else, you know, if
let me give everybody 2 minutes, or 4 minutes, and then
we continue the next round.
Yeah,
okay?
We're gonna have that part 2. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes. I'll start. You want anyone, Brother Hakim? You want to start? You want to finish last, or you want to start? We can give the ladies first, and then you can start. Whatever you want.
I'll finish last.
Okay. So let me start with our sisters. Go ahead, guys. Any one of you who would love to speak and to give any point? 4 minutes. Thank you.
I think for wrapping 4 minutes is even long. We saved from coming 1 hour. Now we went to
yeah, I know. We're almost done.
I think
at least 4 minutes, so you can. If you forgot anything, you have to conclude it.
Yeah. I would say that really. Thank you everybody for being here, and everyone again that is going to listen to this. And I will just urge you that, you know, we've already talked about everything. You know, in my conclusion, I will just is a word of an appeal to all our Equatorian people and urging you really to look deeper into this matter, and also to to hear out with understanding and with thinking. You know, it's like the reason why we talk. Talking is important. You know, if you want solution, a proper solution, you have to sit down and talk. You have to bring the matter on a table and dissect the matter into pieces. By dissecting the matter, you get to know where the problem is coming from, where the problem is going, and how to resolve the problem and to put an end to it. This is just what I will be giving to, you know, our fellow Equatorians in terms of coming to, you know, to view this program and to listen to it. Like, listen with understanding, listen from your perspective of Equatorians. Gotta leave the rest of the other region outside it. Leave the word of unity outside it. Leave the word of one nas one and munu delde. Leave out of it one people there. Look from the side of Equatorian. Look deeper from what is happening to you. Look deeper from your how you've been exiled from your own homeland, your native homeland, your nation. You know, look deeper into this. Is this supposed to happen? Is this fair go? Is this fair income? Is this right? You know, look into this. This is how I will leave you here with this. Thank you. And come again, please, to continue with us the series. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Hadassah. Dikete Melo, go ahead, and then, yeah.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who has been here with us. And then I also want to thank you once again for bringing us all together to speak about this point of the report. Yeah, it's so important, but right now when I'm going to conclude, I would like to focus on just some few points that I think it's essential, and this is a chance maybe I can leave that. First of all, number one, Equatorians, there's some things going on in different platforms. Sometimes people are being advised not to share our discussions and so on. And sometimes it's something that it's like creating an enmity, which we think it's not good for us as Equatorians. When we come to share these forums, let's keep on sharing with others so that our message can reach to everyone. Yeah, people have lost hope, but when they start hearing different forums of Equatoria speaking, if it is from Dr. Hakim forum or our forum or anybody who's speaking on points of Equatoria, it's really very important for us to share. We leave our differences aside. We know it is just sometimes disagreement. We disagree to agree. That is one point. Secondly, that land that is there that we speak about it every day, that land is the land that when something happened bad, or if someone, let's say, I don't wish anybody something bad, but if someone like died abroad and you need to be brought back home, one day you will find there is no place even to bury yourself. Your relative cannot get even a space to bury you. It is the land that we are really crying for it. It is that land of our ancestors, our identity, our history. And then again, another point that we have as weakness, as Equatorians, we have problem with money. When I talk about money, I don't want like people to think like we are focusing on the money just to be channeled to our group or something like this. Every Equatorian that is doing contribution, it's good when we stretch our hands and we start contributing. Let every forum have their own accounts that is full, because one day maybe we'll reach a point we want to protect ourselves, we want to defend ourselves, and we need that money. If we get that connection of somebody who can bring us the asayat or the laluk, how can we facilitate that? Because the person will say, I can bring it all the way to your people in the ground. Or maybe if Equatorian youth decide to have their own space, so that time if we don't have anything, because when we have different accounts that we have saved from different forums, we can come all together in the meeting. How can we put our hands together and then see the solution? How can we do that? With money, with Equatorians, with money, I don't know. Maybe naturally we are longonyo or what? I don't know. I don't understand. Because when you look into money's heart, like when we look in a way, like if we can think that even if it is just, let me say $1, if it is consistently given to different groups that are sometimes lobbying about money, it's not for their own benefit, but if someone have something in account, at least you can have a say. Because when we looked at during the fight of the Nuer and Dinka, the way Dinka and Nuer are contributing to their people, that's what make them, those of Riyak, powerful. That's what make those of Sulfur also powerful, because their people contribute. So when we don't want to contribute for Equatoria, how can we help Equatoria? So money is also essential. Let's not fear talking about money. because this same money, if it is collected to different forums, there's a day will come, Equatoria will come together that now all the forums bring all the accounts that you guys have. Let's decide one thing. So we will start speaking about money once again. We'll get time from different forums. We need to, if it is Dr. Hakim, if someone is comfortable, you send to Dr. Hakim. If it is our forum or different forums that is collecting money for Equatoria, it's all for our good. One day it will help. We are not going to use it, but at least one day we'll have a backup of some funds that can do something for Equatoria. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much, Dikerte. My brother James, the speaker was Dikerte, the one you just heard. That's her name. I was gonna write you, but I have issues with my internet here. But thank you for asking the question. Going back to my point, I'll give CJ. You will finalize with the final word. So I will give. Can you mute yourself, please? I know. Yes, thank you. What I'm gonna do right now is just hold on a second. Let me put this down. All right. Yes. So as you see, my brothers and sisters, I really appreciate everyone who concerned about Equatoria, and I'm proud of every Equatorian who stand for Equatoria without any nonsense. And those who don't like what we say and think that we are too much. And I know some brother here mentioned me like you need to cool down. I don't know what cool down for, because if you're cool with the situation going on in Equatoria, I'm not cool with it. So with all due respect to you, those who don't like what we say and they wanted to mock us, Equatoria talk too much. I don't know. Every time when we come up live and we speak, they always have to come up with some silly comments. And have to be honest, because these people back home have nobody to speak for them. But we always come outside. When we're in the diaspora, I see people in the diaspora, they always like to praise leaders, praise people for their, names and where they come from or what they did. And instead of looking at the people who are really crying day and night and neglected, those who could even do better than those guys who are now praising them. We live in the West. We know what the value of land means. We know what the value of a nation means. And for them, living in those Western countries, never learn from it, that show me shameful they are, how shameful they are. Because shame for a person who cannot understand, you've been in those countries. You're supposed to know how they live. They don't waste their time. They build, they plan for the future. They sit as a community, because nobody is an island. Even there's a poetry that said, no man is an island. We Equatorian, we are a nation based on our tribe coming together from the day one. We were born in that area. We were raised in that area. Our ancestors built it. Our ancestors created it by all their sweat, blood, and soul. And they even lived in that land. What I want to say, just to brief it here, that we're going to continue our topic. And this is going to be part 1 of the chapter of the episode 1. But the part 2, we're going to continue and we're going to brief it, inshallah. I don't know if those guys who, who have the chance to come back again, our guest panelists, because I know our brother Hakim. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really an honor. And we're going to, because this is a very important topic, because what we're trying to do is we're going to bring Alan Boswell, the same guy who reported this thing. We're going to bring him in our live forum soon after we finish analyzing the whole report, because it's about, I would say, I can't remember how many, it's a lot, but we divided into three episodes. I mean, 3 episodes, yes, but it could be different parts. And we're going to tackle it, because I know we thought we're going to make it in an hour and a half, but I know we went more than that. But thank you for those who are watching us. So I want you to understand that the message is clear. The message is about what's going on in Equatoria. And thank God some foreign nations now begin to acknowledge the pain and the sorrow of Equatorians. So what we need to do now, Equatorian, instead of mocking those who are speaking on behalf of Equatoria or trying to make yourself better or friendly with others who are against Equatoria, we need to stand for the sake of those who are dying. If you have a family back home, you need to think about them. Let us not make our homeland become a cemetery, like what the Russian Putin and our sister have just mentioned, that the land that, when people die in the foreign land. Of course, I've seen a lot of our Equatorian brothers who die in the foreign land. It's very sad, it's heartbreaking, but it's almost like they have no land. And then we don't want also to make our country become a cemetery. We are the hope for our country. We can make our country become even better than Europe. We can even look better because we have all the minerals we need, but we don't want to focus on minerals. We need to focus on our people. because the greatest resource in a country is not the minerals, is the people. Once the people begin to understand that they are the soul and the spirit of that land that they were born in and they were created from, they are the one who going to divide. They're going to be more powerful. Look at Korea. Korea had nothing, no minerals. South Korea. Look at the way how they developed themselves. Look at Japan. Look at those other countries, Europe. Some countries have no minerals. What are they? Are they better than us? Are they smarter than us? Most of them, they have all these educated people. Even they have great generals, but they never disown. They never neglect their people. They never betray their people. They always focus on their land, focus on their people and the future of the generation to come. This is what we want. We want to see Equatoria rise, not Equatoria fall. If the other two regions are not focusing on developing themselves, let's not follow such blind food. Even Christ said, a blind, it would be a foolish for a blind to follow a blind, because no blind man want to follow a blind man. If we are blind, let us not follow the blind people. Let's follow the people who can see. This country has already been failing. It's already been failing as a blind nation. That's why it says from the start, it said South Sudan is viewed as a failed state. That's the first, writing of this guy. He said South Sudan has already been viewed as a failed state, and that's politically, that's socially, and that's even militarily. In all manners, South Sudan have failed. So our community of Equatoria is the only one that holds its ground. And there's some people who are so attached to the Upper Nile people or to the Bahar Gaza, they are thinking that we are against the other tribes in Upper Nile. We are not. What we're trying to do is to fight for ourselves, fight for the independence of our people by protecting them, by giving them the right, by giving them the sovereignty that we can go forward. I know I prolonged, but I will continue next time here. So I will just leave it here for a minute. I will give Brother Hakim to continue. But please, guys, have a conscience. Don't use just ignorance. Don't be like always using emotion of wala zol shatamni hina, zol naqadni hina, khalad shatima. This is ridiculous. They're not grown-up people, and especially if you live in the West. If you live in the West, you're supposed to be wise, not be foolish. خلينا نستبونها بيتصرفوا زي ده. كان زول عمل ما حاجه قالوا زول مش عمل لي نميمه هنا شتمني وعمل لي كلامات فارغ. لكن خلي الزول قاعد في ويست فكر زي مخته ويست. ما تمشي تشيل لنا لغه الشوارع يا تقول خلاص بقى زول تبقى في ويست. يعني ما جا ناس لغه الشارع a lot of sadly ناس اللي بيوري حالهم ما متربيين بقى بيستخدموا لغه الشارع. يلا قاعدين نقول قالوا هم some people in community. انت كان سي جانا زول متربي ما مسبات ده خليه دي حاجات ما بيتكلموا فوق. احنا ناس رجال. اطفالك ده بكره يشوفك شنو. So it's disgusting, but I will leave it there. But thank you. Go ahead, guys, and I will give it to you, Brother Hakim, Dr. Hakim.
أنا بس عندي
Thank you so
رسالة.
much. Yes, sir.
أنا عندي رسالة لكل الاستوائيين، رسالة لكم كلكم المستمعين، بصفة خاصة الاستوائيين. رسالة بتاعتي رسالة very simple I hope. إحنا لما نتكلم عن future بتاعت إيكواتوريا، لما عاوزين نتكلم عن المستقبل بتاع إيكواتوريا، لازم نتكلم كاستوائيين بشكل جماعي. Let me give you example. هسي إحنا قاعدين نتكلم في الفورم ده، إحنا بنتكلم as one voice. كويس؟ إحنا EPA, Equatorial People's Alliance. This is Equatorial Civil Association in diaspora. They are also members of EPA. يعني إيه؟ إحنا جينا عشان نتكلم سوا، عشان نشتغل سوا. We are demonstrating the example of working together, especially when it concerns the future of Equatoria. لأنه إيكواتوريا ده دي ما قضية بتاعت واحد زول ولا قضية بتاعت واحد organization. كان إحنا كلنا عندنا يعني مبدأ بتاعت أنه إحنا نخدم استوائية. المفروض نجي نشتغل سوا، لأنه استوائية ده واحد بيجمع ناس كتار سوا. إحنا نجي سوا ونتكلم بصوت واحد. عشان كده نهار ريت بتلقانا هنا بنتكلم مع ناس members بتاعت Equatorial Civil Association Council، وبكره هم بيجوا معانا يخططوا سوا، بنخطط البرامج حقنا سوا، لأنه our people are the same. الاستوائيين هم هو الاستوائيين. عشان كده احنا كلنا لازم نجي شنو؟ نجي تحت رايه واحده عشان نتكلم بصوت واحد كاستوائيين. كويس؟ We have to work together as Equatorians, and we are demonstrating it here that we're working together as Equatorians. كويس؟ لكن I just want to warn you, there are people who will want to say that they're working for Equatoria, they want to do something for Equatoria, لكن they don't want to work with other Equatorians. كويس؟ يتكلموا كلام نمشي كده نعمل إيكواتوريا كده، نعلن إيكواتوريا يبقى دولة، لكن ما بكونسلت إيكواتوريا ذاته يعلن الدولة ده يكون كيف. إحنا المفروض كان عندنا رأي وعندنا رؤية واضحة لاستوائية، نجي كلنا سوا نتشاور كلنا سوا نتكلم زي هسه قاعدين نتكلم عشان نوري للعالم ده إنه إحنا كلنا شنو؟ واحد people, we are one people. We don't speak differently, we don't work in isolation from each other. إذا كان إحنا عاوزين نتكلم ونشتغل برانا كل زول يشتغل بالطريقة بتاعته، معناه ده بيعني إيه؟ بكرة أنا أمشي أتكلم يجي يقول قال لك يعني منها إيكواتوريا أحسن من إيكواتوريا تاني. ما في Equatorian better than another Equatorian. We all want to stand together as Equatorians. We speak together, we plan together, we do it together. كويس؟ انتوا هتسمعوا الأيام ده هتشوفوا. And I'm just giving, we're just giving the tip of the iceberg at this point in time. We want to send a message to all Equatorians that if we want to work together for a future of Equatoria, for self-determination of Equatoria, or for a state Equatoria, we have to do it together. We have to do it together, consult, work together, and come under one voice. عشان نكون احنا شنو؟ يكون لنا صوت واحد كاستوائية ونتكلم كاستوائيين. كويس؟ ده الرسالة اللي أنا عاوزه أوصله لكم كلكم so that we don't have to compete with each other. قضية الاستوائية ده ما عاوز له competition. We don't have to compete with each other about representing Equatoria. Which Equatoria then are we representing? If it is the same Equatoria, why should we be working against each other? Why should we be competing with one another? كويس؟ إحنا في شهر 8 السنة اللي فات مشينا في الحوار الاستوائي 4 شهور قبل ما عملنا نعمل حاجة. 4 شهور، شهر 4، شهر 5، شهر 6، شهر 7، شهر 8 قمنا عملنا إعلان حقوق الشعب الاستوائي. ده كان جاء من كلام فارغ. ما إحنا قعدنا تحت اتكلمنا مع استوائيين، سألنا الرأي بتاعتهم شنو، سألنا الرأي بتاعتهم في أي حاجة بالطريقة الديمقراطية. كل واحد عنده صوت وأدلى برأيه، قال رأيه شنو. كويس؟ لفترة بتاعت 4 شهور نادينا أي استوائي بغض النظر عن شنو الانتماء السياسي بتاعته ولا بشنو. حتى توماس شريلو ناديناه جاي يتكلم في الحوار الاستوائي. كويس؟ نادينا كواجه بتاعت SSNFC جاي يتكلم في الحوار الاستوائي. كويس؟ احنا عملنا مشاورات وما خلينا باب فاضي، ما خلينا اي استوائي برا. قلنا لازم نسمع من الاستوائيين دي يقولوا شنو، عشان بكره ما في زول يجي يقول انه شنو انت يا عملت حاجه ده، انت يا عملت ده، ده ما كان ده فلان. ما زي ده. احنا كلنا زي كانوا برلمان استوائيه، إنه كله بيجافقوا، إنه بونسوا، إنه بيكلم حاجات الناس وكلم يلا بعد ذاك إنه باين شنو، إنه كان قلنا بعمل شنو. And that was how we came up with Equatorial People's Declaration and Charter of Rights. بعد مشاورات، بعد كلام كتير استمر ل4 شهور، بعد ما عملنا الإعلان بعدنا كمان نشتغل في شنو عشان نكون تحالف الشعب الاستوائي، نجيب استوائيين كله يكون تحت واحد مظله. هو كوننا Equatorial People's Alliance. كويس؟ زمن داك وكده احنا عملنا الاعلان ده، بعده جاء حصل ديمونستريشن بتاعت واشنطن لغايه الوقت داك ما في زول كان قاعد يتكلم عن دوله منفصله بتاعت جنوب بتاعت استوائيه، ولا كان في اي زول قاعد يتكلم عن شنو؟ عن self determination بتاع استوائيه. ايه رايك؟ It was only these two organizations. Equatorians لازم يعرفوا الكلام ده. كان عندهم evidence which is different, let them tell us. Equatoria People's Alliance made a declaration about Equatoria People's self-determination. Equatoria Civil Association Council in Diaspora مع عدد كبير من الإيكواتوريين في واشنطن عملوا مظاهرات ويتكلموا عن انفصال بتاع إيكواتوريا. كويس؟ ورونا يا جماعة منو تاني كان فيها اللي قاعد يتكلم عن حق استوائية؟ منو كان تاني اللي قاعد يتكلم عن سيلف ديترمينيشن بتاعت استوائية؟ ولا حتى بتاعت إيكواتوريا اكزيت منو كان قاعد يتكلم عنه؟ كويس؟ انتوا بتعرفوا الكلام ده كويس. عشان كده احنا شغالين سوا عشان نبني مستقبل بتاع استوائية. كان في زول جا متاخر وجا ونسوا كمان كلام تا ايكواتوريا، وعاوز انفصال تا ايكواتوريا، وعاوز اكزيت تا ايكواتوريا. ما بيقدر يمشي يشتغل براه هناك يعمل برنامج حقه شنو عشان يعمل كومبيتيشن مع حاجه انه اوريدي قاموا. وبدا 200، انتوا بداتوا 200 الكلام ده، بداتوا 200. عشان كده انا برسل رساله لاستوائيين انه احنا لازم نجيب واحد ونشتغل سوا. And let us also demonstrate انه يس شغالين سوا. يعني حتى زي زينا بيجينا بونسينا بيشاركنا بكونسلتنج بونس سوا كاستوائيين، صح؟ إن بنمشي في كوتورب اي بي سي كوتورب برودكاستنج كوربريشن بنجي سوا كاستوائيين نتكلم بصوت استوائيه. بنمشي في التاون هول تاع ايكواتوريا الحوار الاستوائي بنمشي هناك نتكلم كاستوائيين. كان عاوزين نعمل حاجه لاستوائيه نعمل انفولف استوائيين كله، ما حاجه بتاعت واحد زول. كويس؟ ده الخبر، ده الرساله انا عاوز اوصله للاستوائيين كله يفهموا الكلام ده كويس. بعدين النقطه الثانيه والاخيره اللي انا عاوز اقوله، الريبورت ده اللي كتبه ألان بوزول ده بيقول بوضوح انه استوائيين عنده حق في تقرير المصير. وتقرير المصير ده ياخده لانه الدوله فشلت، ما في زول قاعد يحافظ على حقوق حقنا. انت تحافظ على حقوق نفسك. كويس؟ استوائيين شعب يا اخواننا في الجنوب ده. في شعب تاني يعني وصل مرحله بتاعت استوائيه في انه مثلا عنده السوشيال فابريك اللي احنا عندنا ده، ما ضد اي زول، لكن احنا كاستوائيه شعب. الشعب الاستوائي له وجود وله شنو ايدنتيتي. كويس؟ وبالتالي بيحق له انه شنو يطالب بحقوقه، لانه اساسا ما في نظام، في فوضى في الجنوب. فوضى على حسابنا احنا؟ لا، ما يكون في فوضى على حساب بتاعت الاستوائيه، لانه الاستوائيه شعب. استوائيه شعب عنده حق في تقرير المصير. عشان كده احنا عملنا declarations of Equatorial peoples لهذا السبب، لانه احنا عارفين عاوزين نمشي لوين. انت لازم احنا كاستوائيين كان انتهى المسار بينا عشان نقدر نكون عندنا دوله بتاعتنا. عشان كده كنا بنتكلم عن ستيت فورميشن. الستيت فورميشن ده حاجه بيحتاجوا له as a people. Even in the African Charter on Peoples and Human Rights, a people are entitled to self-determination in order to form their own state or in order to govern themselves. كويس؟ وده حق متاح لكل شعب، لكل اي مجموعه بيتواجد فيه الصفات بتاعت انه هو شعب واحد. كويس؟ فده ما في زول ما بيقدر يجزم بانه استوائيه عندها شنو؟ عندها كل المقومات اللي شنو تصف بها الشعب. فاذا كان انا تبرع يا قايل انه احنا شعب، ليه ما خلاص نتصرف كشعب؟ مش كده؟ نتصرف كشعب، نطالب بحقوقنا كشعب، نتكلم بلسان شعب حقنا. كده، مش كده؟ لازم نعمل كده. طيب ما دام قلنا ده يعني احنا مقتنعين مجزمين بهذا الكلام، عشان كده احنا عملنا ديكلاريشن بتاعت هنا اعلان حقوق شعب الاستوائيه، لانه في النهايه ده هيقود لشنو؟ الاقامه بتاعت الدوله بتحافظ على الحقوق بتاعت الاستوائيين، ويحافظ على يد استوائيين الحق في انه يحكموا انفسهم. اذا كان في دوله فوضى في الدوله، ما لازم انت تنقذ نفسك، لازم تضع امور في نصابه، تقول يا اخواننا احنا لازم نكون عندنا دوله سليمه، لانه هدف بتاعت الدوله انها تحافظ على حقوق الناس. اذا كانت الدوله بقت ما تحافظ على حقوق الناس، بتشردهم، يبقيهم رفيجيز ويكتل فيهم، كويس؟ ده دوله بتاعت شنو؟ ما احنا لازم نيجي في الترابيزه نقول هي الكلام ده ما بيمشي، احنا هنحافظ على حقوقنا وده من حقنا، كويس؟ ده من حقنا. عشان كده احنا لازم شنو يا اخواننا نقول انه شنو المستقبل بتاعت الاستوائيه بايدي بتاعت الاستوائيين. والكلام الريبورت ده قالوا انه احنا بيحق عندنا حق في تقرير المصير، shared sovereignty، كويس؟ shared sovereignty. how do we have shared sovereignty؟ ما هسه sovereignty is shared only between the Dinka and the Nuer في اتفاقيه بتاعت revitalization ده. ما هو واضح استوائيه عنده شنو هناك؟ ما بيلعب دور قيادي ولا دور سياسي، كويس؟ so we have to share the sovereignty، كويس؟ ده بالوضوح، ده الريبورت بيقول كده، كويس؟ لكن احنا لازم يكون عندنا قياده بيتكلم بهذا اللسان، لانه احنا يكون في هناك شير sovereignty. ده بيحق، ده حق استوائيه. اذا كان في اي organization ولا مجموعه ولا حركه ما بيتكلم بهذا اللسان ولا عاوز يتكلم بحقوق بتاعت الاستوائيين، خلوهم يعملوا الحاجه اللي هم عاوزينه. احنا ممكن نشارك ايدينا في انه ننزل النظام ده، لكن ده ما بيعني انه احنا نتخلى من انه احنا نتكلم بشنو؟ بلسان بتاعت الاستوائيين اللي عاوزين يكون عندهم حقه كدوله ولا كشعب. لازم نتكلم، لانه ما في طريقه بعد كده. اذا كان احنا في الجنوب ده الناس بتشارك في السلطه السياسيه وتتقاسم في السلطه السياسيه في افراد وشخصيات ولقبائل معينه، لا we can't be part of it، كويس؟ we can't be part of it. عشان كده الريبورت ده واضح يا اخواننا الاستوائيين، الريبورت واضح انه انتوا عندكم حق في التقاسم بتاعت شنو؟ السوفرنتي ذاته. That's one. Secondly, you need a political leadership. البوليتيكال leadership ما بالضروره يكون في زول واحد، لكن يكون process. انتوا as a people you have to come together. You can decide to choose who are your leaders, who articulate the agenda for Equatoria. That is how you can work. ده والمرحله the third point which has to be stressed is that احنا عندنا perception that we are being marginalized. طيب عايز تعمل شنو؟ عايز تعيش في المارجناليزيشن ده forever؟ ما لازم تطلع منه يا اخي، مش كده؟ نطلع منه كيف؟ ما هنيجي نشتغل سوا، نتوحد في الصفوف بتاعتنا، يكون عندنا برامج ورؤيه واضحه للمستقبل بتاع الاستوائيه. وده الكلامات اللي احنا كنا قاعدين نتكلم حوله في الحوار الاستوائي. واحنا لكن زي الاستوائيين كانوا عاوزين يضربوا نفسهم sometimes يضربوا نفسهم في رجلونهم، كويس؟ بعد ما نتكلم ده في دو كله عايزين نقوم نعمل شنو؟ نعمل competition among ourselves as Equatorians. What for؟ هسه احنا اثنين كان انا ونفرين بدا يشتغلوا سوا. نمرة 3 ده ما تعال انضم يا اخي، تعال انضم نبقى 3 عشان نشتغل سوا. ليه عاوز تمشي تعمل لك ركوبه ثانيه بهناك عشان باسم انت ايكواتوريا عشان تشتغل بو شنو يعني؟ يعني الايكواتوريين اللي بدا يشتغلوا سوا دي غلطانين يعني؟ ما ينضم الاستوائيين اللي خطوا يدونهم سوا دي صاحبهم يا امشي، ما ضر رايك انت يا اخي. ما لازم انه تضع ثاني لك ركوبه ثاني وناس قاعدين يخطوا يدهم سوا انت تمشي تعمل لك ركوبه ثاني بورا هناك. انا قاعد اعمل اكزاكتلي ذا سيم ثينج. طيب يا اخي هنمشي للعالم الخارجي ده هنمشي له كيف؟ في ركوبه ثانيه انا بتكلم عن فورمينج ايكواتوريا ستيت another one there forming self-determination. طيب مع أساس أنتوا قاعدين تتكلم نفس الحاجة، شنو الفوضى ده؟ ليه تخلق تكتلات ده؟ ما تعال كون في محل واحد يتكلم سوا. ده المهم، ده الرسالة بتاعتي. وهتفهموها، كان ما فهمتوها هتفهموها في الأيام الجاية. وأنا بشكرك على كده. شكرا.
Oh, shukran. I appreciate that, brother. It's really wonderful. Yeah, I hopefully, we have understood it. The Equatorians, inshallah, فهمنا الرسالة بوضوح. فهمنا هو همكم. هم كل واحد مننا كجنوبي وين ما كان. Yeah, this is really, it's our dreams, it's our pains, it's everything. Dying of Equatoria daily قاعد يعمل لنا، قاعد يأرقنا، عارف كيف؟ It disturbs us fully. ما مفروض نوصل لمرحلة ده. So the point is, what it can, as a conclusion, coming to my points. أنا اللي عاوز أقوله شنو، let's benefit from the past. أخطاء الماضي لا يجب أن يتكرر. عارف كيف؟ خلينا ننظر للشمال أكثر. شماليين اللي خدونا تحت وميزونا بالتمييز العنصر العرقي والديني وكلام ده كله. We should learn. 3/4 بتاعنا كتار مننا مشوا الخرطوم. لو ما مشوا كان مشوا في زمن بتاع الحوادث بتاعت SPLA دي. So what have we learned? We need to learn from each other. We need to hold each other. يعني لا يجب أن نختلف في الآراء. مبدأ بتاعنا يجب أن يكون واحد. We need one principle, one objective and one principle. At the meantime, at this particular time, لأنه الأرض بتاعت إكواتوريا قاعد ينزف، أرض بتاعت إكواتوريا قاعد تتقلع يوم بعد الآخر. أنت بتجي تبني بيتك هنا بيقتلوك، بيهاجموك، بيخلي الناس يتبولوا في البيوت في داخل مبانيهم، بتشوف أخوك قاعد يقتلوك، تنتظر لحد بكرة. حرام، تنتظر لحد بكرة in state of، بدل ما تضحي. روح ده وين؟ إكواتوريا ما كده كله. Why not this way? Equatoria is not this way. انت ما ممكن تخلي اخوك بيقتلوه في الشارع، ما ممكن تخلي ولد هنا مثلا عشان يمشي ينتحر، واحد ما عنده تعليم ما عنده حاجات ديل. We need to work together guys. We need to work together. Working together is a goal. دي أهم من الهم إن شاء الله الشاغل في بلده. فأنا بقول أنه شنو، لا يجب أن ننتهي للأوروبي اللي كتب عن الوقائع دي، التقرير دي. We shouldn't rely just only on that. We should also work for those of us who are the educators, the scholars, ناس الوسطنا. We need to write. Active حتى لو booklet. Imagine Lagu during the time. Lagu wrote a booklet about decentralization's why. He went on explaining it. I could remember, I got a chance of meeting the gentleman. We talk over it as a student chairman. But then, we work on it. So later on, it happens. Dreams become true. So anything is possible, guys. زي ما قالوا الأمريكان, anything is possible. ما كان في واحد بيعلم أنه بيكون في أمريكا في رئيس. Obama did it. Today, as we're standing, we have also a vice president, a lady. So all these opportunities would have been ours. كل chances, opportunities they can would have been our Equatorians. It's unfortunate. We seem to ignore it. And neglect. We used to look لحاجات الجاهز. Equatoria ما كده. We don't always look to حاجات الجاهز. Equatoria has been surviving زي ما احنا سمعنا كتير. ما كان في منظمة الأمم المتحدة بيجي عشان يجي يرمي لإكواتوريا ذرة بتاعت ذرة ولا شيء عشان survive. لأنه إحنا ناس زراعيين، إحنا قادرين على نعمل كل شيء. لكن imagine وين وصلنا؟ الأمبارح افتكرناه عدو، قالوا أخو become an enemy. He began to hunt us down. عاوز يشيل الأرض بقوة السلاح. So are we weak to that point, Equatoria? Is it an excuse to say أنه أنت عاوز تخلق نفسك excuse أنا ما عندي ده. Man, come on. أنت عايش في الدنيا هنا بإيدك. You're living in this land, in this earth, by the power of God. Why do you have to doubt yourself? I don't have this pen, أنا ما عندي قلم ده، أنا ما عندي عصاية ده، أنا ما عندي.
Come on, guys. Why wouldn't we look to the Aero boys? Those boys, Lamanas, John was all that Uganda, Lord resistant. When he became Joseph Kony, the guy when Jamadel, Yaunasal Bigis, woman turned Jamadele against Equatorians. That was outrageous. Like, can't you know, those boys stand. Yet the other Equatorians kept on watching. That is not the way. Time is over. Equatoria come up to your sense. أرجع لحالكم الأولى. إحنا family. زي ما قال لك دي دور الفات وأخواننا كثيرين. We know. يعني الليلة أنا بقول لك أنا منو. You know, we are mixed up. We're one family. أنا عندي زول في توريد، عندي زول في محل في كانت عاوز تقول لي مثلا زاندي دهر زاندي وين مكان. All these we have blood with them. So what else? Are we doubting ourselves? We're a great country. We're a great people. We can be a wonderful country tomorrow if we stand. ما تحلم ما تقول إنه ما في زول يقول إيكواتوريا ما بيعمل حاجة ما بيعمل. No, we will do it. Together we will do it. As individual, definitely we will not do it. So please, I don't have to for long. شكرا لكم أنتم تجيتونا. You know, you came to attend this. Please tell the rest, you know, to come and join us. Remember that, you know, you have a chance also. As you're writing, if at all you have any questions, كان عندك أي سؤال تعاوز أطرحه please. المرة الجاية إحنا هنحاول عشان نتكلم بعربي كمان، لأنه الشيء اللي أنا بشوفه الإكواتوري المؤهل يجب أن يكون عارف اللغة العربية والإنجليزية، لأنه this is something that was being imposed on us. It wasn't ما كان بإرادة بتاعنا. It wasn't based on our will. It was something that came up. لكن is it for benefit؟ قالوا لو عرفت من عرف لغة قوم أمن شرهم. Whoever knows the language of the others, you know, he will avoid their criminals or their bad habits. That's what it is. So all these things are precious for us. So let's encourage each other, plus including also our heritage, our mother tongues and all that. They'll call them value. Today we're under attack. Today we're in a war, guys. Let us not turn it over. ما تقول لي أنه أنا دي أخوي بكرة أنا راكم دي واحد أنا زوجت منه. Please زواج ما مشكلة. آدم وحواء من آدم وحواء ناس قاعد يتزوجوا. لكن شنو؟ It's the mentality, the human mentality, الجريد، الطمع والجشع. هذه كله المواقف اللي بخلينا نكون شنو؟ موضع صدمة. ما بتحترم الآخر. يا أخي جنوب السودان كان بيشيلنا كلنا يا أخي. كان بيشيلنا كلنا، لكن شوف الراجل ما بعرف إنه جاي منه وين. عشان كده بنقول إنه إيكواتوريا بليز نشيد حيلنا. إحنا بنوصل. بالنسبة للأخوة اللي عاوز يقول إنه مثلا عاوز يطلع برا من الصف، أنا عاوز أعمل ليه حقي كده، أنا عاوز please come to the house. تعال لنا. Let's join together. Let's join hands together. إننا أخوان. ما بنختلف. هل هنختلف عشان وظيفة؟ لا. الليلة يصنعوا حاجة. Now they have established a way better than before. كانت بتسمع إنه سلطان فلان ده بس من ولد ده أبوه مات بكرة بيجيبوا جناو. كذا. Today is not any longer. Today is an open chance to everyone. بتجي إحنا بنخطك في وظيفة بناء على الشعب. شعب بيتقرروا كلام بتاعهم. أوكي إحنا عاوزين فلان. إحنا عاوزين فلان. بيخش في الوظيفة. The next day بنقول له يا جك لما يجي زمن نقول له يا جك it's time. It's time you step up. You step down in a peaceful manner. This is the life, the country we were dreaming about. This is if South Sudan fail to fulfill عشان يدي طموحات بتاعنا our desires عشان fulfill our desires. Why wouldn't we work hard to get our own, guys? لأنه شوف الغش ده كان كيف. أنا مع تحرير السودان وكان جينا في جنوب السودان أنا بخليك أنا بمشي لقدام. Where is all these promises? دينكا كان قاعد promise ده. We know where they come from. ومن كان قاعد promise إنه كنت وصلت في المحل ده خلاص جنوب أنا بخليها أنا ماشي قدام. Where is that قدام؟ تخيل القش. فأي زول خليكم مؤمنين أي زول بيرفع سلاح عارف كيف وما بيكون مع الشعب زول ما زول بتاعنا خالص. لأنه لازم يسمع تعليمات من الشعب. لو في صغيرة ولا كبيرة لازم يلجأ للشعب. يا أخوانا في شنو؟ قالوا لي كذا يا ناس زي مؤتمرات الناس قاعدين يمشوا فوق ده. شعب يا ريفرنس بتاعك. We need to come back to the people. أنت كان وصلت في تريك في موقع very ضيق داخلوك مثلا حاصروك انه اوه خلاص ارضي ده يا اخي دي لفلان ولك، قول له جاك دقيقه let me go back to my people, talk to your people. الناس اللي بدوك ideas بدوك more, then you come with it. انت بتكون more powerful than as individuals. ناس وانيقه today what are they doing؟ خلاص هسه بقى شيم بالنسبه لهم، بقى فضيحه بالنسبه لهم انه يقولوا الحقيقه، لانه هم خلاص دخلوا جوا. عارف كيف؟ دخلوا جوا مع الراجل الطيب ده وخدتهم في تنك، خروجك بعد ده يشيلوا راسك برا. So they have no way out. So are we depending on those people? لا هنا we'll not depend on them. We have to depend on ourselves as Equatorian so we can make a difference guys. وربنا يطول عمركم ويقوينا ويحمي كل مواطنيننا وين مكان، واللي قتلوهم احنا بنصلي لهم ربنا يباركهم. عارف كيف؟ ربنا يتقبل الروح بتاعهم ويرقدهم بالسلام. عارف كيف؟ وخليهم ايضا يتوصلوا لربنا انه احنا نكون اقوياء ونقدر ننتصر وناخذ ارضنا، لانه في النهايه الارض هو كل شيء في امرنا. شوفوا انظر اقلب ظهرك لورا، شوف كده زول اللي قاعد يعمل كثير، الناس اللي عاوزين ارض، كلام ارض الناس قاعد يتنازع فوقه، اللي ربنا ادانا اللي ما اداه في اي جزء من العالم. في ناس عندهم صحراء، هم حولوا صحراء دي بعد يوم بقوه بتاعهم باراده بتاعهم بتاع الشعب، حولوا صحراء دي لشنو؟ لجنه today. منتهى العمارات، تعليم وكل شيء، كله عقل. إيكواتوريا عندنا عقليه كبير. We can make a difference. Let's change, help each other. الازمه بتاعت القرش ده please let's get it out. قرش ده please ادي قرش لاخوك as long as ماشي لي benefit بتاعت إيكواتوريا. انما ما ماشيين نشيل القروش عشان نمشي نقتل زول، انما ماشيين نشيل قرش ده، اي قرش جاي لإيكواتوريا ده عشان نحمي إيكواتوريا. ان we are in self defense today. في زول دخل في البيت بتاعنا كان عاوزين نطلع الزول ده، ما في زول بديك اسكيوز. حتى الدول ICC والدول اليو ان ده لما نيجي نقول له زول في البيت بتاعي بليز there's no excuse. زول اللي المفروض يطلع من بيت بتاعي بحسن نيه. يا اخي زي ما قال الكتاب المقدس، ابو انت بكون لك ابو وام، بعد بكره ولد ده بيمشي وبيكون بيت بتاعه وده بيكون بيت بتاعه. عندنا ما عندنا نيه كعب على الناس زين، خليهم يمشوا محلهم كانوا قاعدين فوقه. we're just saying simply امشي اقعد في محل انت قاعد فوقه ده وخلينا نقعد في محلنا. عارف كيف؟ ببساطه جدا. الارض belong to شنو؟ to the community not to the people. ما توهمنا زي كلام عرب تجلب في شمال السودان قال دخول الناس في السودان، في الوقت لانه كنا عارفين الحقائق ده، والتاريخ بيشهد انه دخول العرب في السودان وليس الناس، والعرب بذاته الناس منو ذاته هناك عناصر ملونه ملونين بس مجرد ملونين بكره ويدك عرفوا اللغه العربيه وقالوا من عرب. please that is all nonsense. ف we need to come to our sense. نشكركم قوي، ربنا يبارككم ويبارك كل واحد مننا until we meet the next time in the next episode. We'll have to work it out. Thank you guys. Thank you for listening. Share all this video, and thanks to Dr. Hakim, Didi, and all our brothers and sisters, those who are watching us, writing all the comments, appreciate your coming in, so God be with you guys and God bless you and you have a great time. Thank you. Thank you, Atika. Go ahead. You can take over now.
All right, CJ, thank you. أنا بس ما عندي كتير، لكن كان ماما قادر يتكلم، أنا ما أعرف هو جاب في he got the link. طبعا انتهينا من التوبيك. Yeah, انتهينا من التوبيك anyway. I just want to say we finished the topic for today. The next topic we're going to continue part 2 بتاعه. أنا بشكر كتير Dr. Hakim for your time and effort. For real, you are a Equatorian patriot, and I am very proud to work with you and to be a team with you. And all of our group also appreciate you, because I see you the time when everybody was looking at us like, who's this guy talking? You're the one who came and approached us and began to listen to our point, and you kind of like gave us the respect that, an academic like you will always do. And that shows a real teacher, what mean a professor or a teacher. Because once you are, you come to listen to the people, you don't reject them. You listen to them and you respect them, and then you finally come up with the conclusion. And you actually gave us all the respect, and I really appreciate you so much. I'm honored to work with you, and we're gonna be Equatoria. This nation that people are doubting us, that we're not going to be Equatoria, we're going to be. And we know exactly how it's going to happen. We're not rushing, we're not pushing, but we are focusing and we're calculating everything in time. I know we find a lot of obstacles. Even we find people who are trying to play opportunists in the time when we're fighting for our right. But in the all, we are always looking forward, because الناس اللي قدنا more spirit and more hope يا الناس اللي تحت هناك ده. And this is the people, because we come from them. We're not far from them. إنما نسينا نجينا من وين. حتى إننا قاعدين في يوروب قاعدين إن شاء الله كودونا في فضاء. We still know who we are. أنا بشكر and we have to thank our families, those who raised us, لأنه عائلة بتاعنا اتربوا في ظروف اللي مروا فوق وعلمونا مبادئ، ومبادئ دي اليوم we are fighting in that name of that مبادئ اللي علمونا له، مبادئ بتاع self sacrifice، يعني تضحية النفس من أجل حق الناس التانيين، حتى لو ما بيشكروك، حتى لو ما بيكرموك، لكن أهم شيء Equatoria rise. Then from there let everyone talk about who and what happened at that time. لكن تاريخ بيذكر الناس اللي عملوا صح، وتاريخ بدين الناس اللي عملوا غلط. Want to welcome my brother James. Thank you for joining us, brother. It's been a while. Shukran lek, join us. Go ahead. I know you have a lot you want to say, and I thank you for participation also. ولكل المشاهدين اللي قاعدين يتجمعوا معنا.
Yes.
شكرا. تفضل.
Sorry, can I interject before James could
Yeah,
speak?
تفضلي. Yeah, go ahead.
بالنسبة لمسج اللي كان I received last week تازول اسمه بنت قال ضربوه في شارع جوديلي. He was parking, and then when the military guys came with their car, they were asking him to move out of the road, but there is Utul Fika. So he was like, I think maybe he answered them, and they shot him immediately dead in front of everyone. So the guys who are there said they came and carried the body in the car. So it's now it's a hard way for the relatives to get the body. So this is the Equatoria that now we are having. That someone can shoot someone right in the broad daylight in front of every Equatorian man because of just somebody blocking the road. You see? But sorry to their family and condolences, but the guy said he will give us information when he get it all. Yeah.
Amen. Thank you.
Allah yarhamu. Yeah, it's a very sad story. This is what's happening to our people, يا جماعة. عشان كده قاعد نقول every Equatorian, you need to stand up for Equatoria. ما له مصلحة عشان أصدقائك منه وناس ياتوا بيحبك وناس ياتوا بيتعاطفوا معك. أقيف مع بيتك أولا، لأنه بيتك يا أساس، ما في زول تاني. حتى إن في أوروبا عارفين، حتى في أوروبا لما يعني الناس اللي مثلا عندهم أطفال طبعا بيقول لك جنى صغير من يوصل عمر 18 خليه يفوت يطلع هو حر. يلا كان جنى ده مشاغب بس مثلا، لأن شفنا كثير طبعا عايشين في أوروبا ده، شفنا ياما، شفنا الكعب وشفنا الكويس، وياما في عوائل مروا في ظروف وإن نتعاطف معهم على الظروف اللي هم مروا فوقه. في عوائل مروا عيالهم بيكونوا ما عندهم أدب، بيوصلوا لمرحلة بقى بيعملوا شغب. يلا كان حاجة أذية جه أو كان موت جه لجنى ده، وربنا يحمينا من كل هذه الأشياء. لكن تخيل خواجات بيجي وين؟ بيجي بيقول لك باب قال اسمع تعلم جناك ما خلاص بقى مرحوم. You see this African American هنا في أمريكا، إحنا الناس اللي قاعدين في أمريكا African American the only time they will acknowledge their family لما خلاص بيقوم طلقة، أو لما يكون في سجن، أو لما يكون في مرحلة بتاع في حالة مرضية خطير منايح الموديل بيجوا بينادوا عائلة بتاعه. حتى هم بيجروا ورا like ماديا بيجروا ورا العائلة، ما إنهم قاعدين يقولوا زول ده كبير أو جنى ده كبير أو بده كبير. So this is the things that happen in these foreign countries. لكن عندنا أساس، بلدنا عنده تاريخ، عنده أساس، عنده موقف، عنده قوانين، وإحنا بنشكر ربنا أجدادنا علمونا حاجة، إحنا بنكون كعائلة. عشان كده إحنا Equatorian, let us not look at the foreigner as our closest friend, let us look at our people as the closest one. لأنه هسه اليوم ده الوجع والألم كلنا قاعدين نحس به في استوائية. ما تقول لي ما في قبيلة ما قاعد يحس فوقه، لأنه every قبيلة قاعد، حتى ما يعملوا لنا فتنة في قبائلنا، لكن نشكر ربنا الحكمة ربنا ادالها استوائية، خلى إحنا الشعب الاستوائية ما بنخلي الجهلة يجي يقودونا، ولا حد بنخلي الجهلة يجي نجي شنو يجي يخلونا يفرتكونا. ونشكر ربنا الحكمة اللي ربنا ادالها استوائية. That's what keep us to continue fight for Equatoria. أنا welcome my brother James. اتفضل أخي جيمس. Yes, welcome to the forum.
تسمعني؟
أيوة أنا سامعك كويس، شكرا. اتفضل.
يديك العافية أخوي أتيكا، حييك وحيي ضيوفك الكرام في الاستوديو بتاع فريق إيكواتوريا بقيادة الدكتور حكيم. صراحة أنا متابعكم من الأول. أنا أمسك في النقطة الأخيرة أنتوا ركزتوا عليها، اللي هي وحدة الإيكاتوريان. الوحدة دي مهمة جدا جدا بالذات في الوقت التاريخ الحرج. وكلنا لما نقول كلمة حرج نحن عارفين التداعيات الحاصلة اليامات ديل، انشقاقات في الآيو ومحادثات سلام مرتقبة. فنحن الإيكاتوريين لازم يعني نكون عندنا تنظيمات سياسية، وواحد منهم هو رئيس حزب قاعد معاكم هنا الدكتور حكيم، هو من المفكرين الغلائل. يعني الإيكاتوريا بيسهر للناس ومستمع جدا جدا، وانا ما كسر تلج، لكن دي حقيقة كل الإيكاتوريين عارفين الكلام ده. فنحن الكلام اللي هو قاله أخيرا، يعني نحن بدل ما كنا 2 ليه بنبقى 3 عشان نحقق شنو يعني؟ وبعدين في عالم السياسي ما في حاجة اسمها أنا بحبك وأنا بكرهك. المصلحة العامة هي اللي بتقتضي أن الناس تكون مع بعض. أما الحاجات الشخصية ده فلان وده علان ما حتخدمنا ولا بتودينا لقدام. بينما الجهة الثانية اللي هو بتحاول أنه تضطهدنا وبتشيل أراضينا هم قاعدين ينظموا في صفوفهم. نحن حان الأوان هسي حاليا بعد ده تاني يعني ما نرجع لورا. وأنا يعني تكيفت جدا جدا من الأخت، أنا سألتك عن اسمها قالت كلام كويس، كلام مفيد، والجماهير إن شاء الله حيستفيدوا منه. يعني نحن دارين كلام زي ده، دارين نرجع لحقيقة الأمر ذاته. نحن يعني ما ممكن أنا أقول مثلا ما دار فلان، أنا ما دار علان، أنا دي يعني حتخدمني في شنو يعني في سبيل الوطن؟ الوطن ما أعلى من كل. نحن عندنا بيتين هسه نمشي في البيتين حقونا دير. البيت الثالث ده أصله ماشي للطريقة الصحيح، المفروض يمشي للبيتين الهسي حاليا قاعدين في الساحة. نحن ما دارين نكسر مجادف أحد أو ما دارين نوقف شخص معين، لكن الحقيقة هي بتقول كده. فيا اخواني انتوا بالذات اصحاب المنتديات دي ما قاعدين تقصروا وامشوا لقدام يعني. وانا اتمنى يوم من الايام يعني اشوفكم في خط واحد، كلكم تكونوا في خط واحد. ما دام انتوا بقيتوا عندكم قياداتكم قاعدين يجوكم زي الدكتور حكيم هنا، واي نوت انتوا أن تتوحدوا في بعض. واليوم ده لما يجي الناس حتفرح، حتى الناس الباكم هناك ديل يعني نحن ما معناته نحن بنعرف اكثر منهم، لانه نحن هنا الوسائل متاحه لنا وعندنا حريه التعبير عكسهم هناك، هم بيستمدوا قوتهم مننا. شكرا اخوي اتيكا للاستضافه، واتمنى انه انتم تمشوا في الطريق ده يعني، ونتمنى ظهور اكثر من مفكر ايكاتوري يعني احنا دارين نستفيد منهم. شكرا جزيلا الدكتور حكيم داريو للكلام السمح والجميل المرسل لجماهير شعبنا. شكرا جزيلا.
انا بس نسأل سؤال كان ما بعمل لك ازعاج. انت قلت مثلا في ناحية بتاع النصيحة للاستوائيين. طيب نصيحتك للمفكرين الاستوائيين شنو؟ انا سميته بد نصيحتك لهم في حس الوضع لسه هنا فوق، وانت قلت وضع حرج ده كان خدتناه في ناحية بتاع النصيحة. انا قاصد بمعنى بتاع انه احنا حاسه ما هو الناقص اللي هم مفترض يعملوها اللي يكملوها عشان يقدر يكمل ينجح المشوار بتاع المفكرين اللي قاعدين يوصلوا الهدف للشعب الاستوائي.
صراحة كلام سؤال جميل جدا جدا. رسالتي يا أخوي اتيكا، المفكرين دورهم مهم جدا جدا، لأنه هم أهل دراية وعندهم باع في العمل الإداري وبالتالي السياسي. فبدونهم نحن ما حنقدر نمشي لقدام، هم السند الأقوى لنا. يعني الدكتور حكيم هو ظهر في الساحة، أنا متأكد في كثير من المفكرين الاستوائيين يعني لافتين ما ظاهرين. أنا رسالتي لهم المفروض يسهروا يعني يقدموا بضاعتهم للجماهير. يعني احنا محتاجين لهم بالذات في الوقت ده. الوقت ده حرج جدا جدا يا اخوي اتيكا. الايامات الجايه او الشهور الجايه حتصهر حاجات كثيره جدا جدا. ان احنا محتاجين للقيادين حقونا، محتاجين لمفكريننا بالذات في الفتره دي. يعني نحن مهما نتكلم يا اخوي اتيكا والجماهير الكرام يبقى كلامنا ده بيعتبر شاوتنج بدون مثلا تنظيمات او تنظيم معين يحكز آرانا على الارض. احنا كلامنا ده بيكون مجرد شاوتنج. يس الناس حتستفيد منه، لكن منو بيخد النقاط في الحروف؟ ما هو المفكرين حقونا ديل. واذا هم اصابوا احنا بنكون اصيبنا، واذا هم اخطاوا احنا بنصلحهم. اكيد ما حيقفلوا الباب في وشنا. هم صوتنا. يعني احنا لما نشتغل مع بعض في هارموني اكيد رسالتنا بتصل. يعني السنه يا اتيكا انتوا في الميديا هنا قبلي، يعني السنه اللي فاتت ما زي السنه دي، انا شايف انه في تحسن. يعني انا رسالتي واضحه لكل المفكرين الايكاتوريين بالذات، يعني الناس ما تخجل، لانه باقي الناس هو اي زول ماشي بيته، انت حتمشي وين يعني احنا لما نتكلم كده ما معناته بندعو للفرقه، لكن دي حقائق الاشياء بتقول كده. ظاهر اندرجراوند الحياه السياسيه في جنوب السودان ماشيه كده. واي نوت اس؟ دي رسالتي لهم يا اخوي اتيكا وجماهير المنتدى بتاع فري كاتوري، انه ناسنا لازم يسهروا، يعني مفكريننا لازم يسهروا، ونحن الداعم الاساسي لهم. ما هو ده
نعم.
الدكتور حكيم معانا هنا، وانا شايفينه في كل المنتديات. انا بحزن لما اجي اشوف، انا ما قبلي وما عنصري، لما اجي اشوف انسان خارج الاقليم الايكاتوري لما يجي يتكلم عن قضايا الايكاتوري في وجود ناس دكتور حكيم، ده معناته شنو ده؟ نحن يا جماعه نحن بعمرات نشيل العاطفه دي برا، ما نخاف ونقول الحقيقه. كثير يا ما نحن قاعد نشوف، انتوا قاعدين تشوفوني انا متنقل من منتدى لمنتدى، ما حبا للشهره حبا للشو، نو، ماشيين نشوف الحاصل هناك شنو. كذا مره بنشوف ناس خارج الاقليم بتاعنا هم يجي يمثلوا قضايانا، يس المساله قوميه، لكن حلو الغنى من خشم سيد من ناحيه معنويه. ودي رسالتي لهم بس يا اخوي اتيكا، انتوا قاعدين تعملوا شغل برضه كويس، يعني ما قاعدين تقصروا. كلكم انتوا اصحاب المنتديات، تريزا ولا بشير، كلكم حكيم، كلكم نشيلكم في حدقات العيون، لكن بدون قياداتنا نحن ما حنمشي لقدام. صراحه انا اقول لك نكون واضحين، يس بنقدم رساله دسمه والناس بتستفيد مننا، لكن المفكرين والقياديين حقونا وجودهم مهم بالذات في الفتره دي. شكرا جزيلا.
طيب
شكرا.
I just want to say something if you don't mind, Etika.
يا اتفضل. طبعا هسه ده بقى بس كان
Yeah.
في public wanna come in because we're gonna finalize. It's already we finished the topic. Yeah.
Just a short one.
Yeah.
Just a short one as part of the host and or part of a team. I just wanted to say we're
go
here
ahead.
volunteering our time. You know, it's like we're volunteering our time. We have life to live. We have other things to do. I just want to say, like, if everybody that you're here, you're present, and you have something to say, I think much of the things should be said in the beginning, and you should join in the beginning. And when we say that we are concluding, we are concluding. If you have like such a series like this, if you have something to say, write down, and then you can come in the next series and you can explain it. And if the thing that you have to say much is needed, it was needed in the beginning, not at the end when we are finishing, and then we sit again, and then somebody come in again. We should be professional and you know, wrap things properly. So yeah, that's just what I want to say. And like, thank you for allowing me to say. I appreciate it.
Thank you Hadassah. I agree with you. Of course today, you know, في حاجات حصلت wrong, but we made it our best, and thank you also for Hakeem so much for giving us the time. طبعا time تاعه late وكمان هنا ده
I think we can
اسمه ده ديكرت ميلو كمان. thank you so much. فأنا ظاهر نختتم لأنه كان مومو قال ده ريجي وكمان ما ظاهر ما is not able to come in, so we have to finalize and say thank you for everyone. قال messenger. Okay, I don't know, can you guys give Momo a chance to speak because I think he wants to speak.
Yeah, go ahead. You know, the guy was having an accident, you know.
And these are the things that I'm saying right now, that if we started in the beginning, if somebody said he's been following us, they should follow us and come in the beginning. And if we have lives to live, we have other things to do. We can't just
I agree.
For everybody like that. Or if somebody doesn't have anything to do, you shouldn't hold other people just, you know, just
did it?
You want to
did
be
it?
here.
Can I get in?
I heard you. I heard you.
You finish and then you come in. So just listen to the things that are. Can I just say what I'm saying? So you just
it's for the. Yeah, go ahead.
Kalash, you just take over, Kalash.
Anna Gulta, go ahead. Nobody said anything wrong. Just go ahead.
Nobody's talking. Come on, go ahead.
I'm finished. I'm finished. I finished. I mean, sorry, I'm just saying broken English now. I'm finished. I finished what I was saying, that, you know, It comes
did
right. You know, we should stick with programming. Yeah.
Did you appreciate that? Well, remember, you know, here as a volunteers, you know, we're not working across the time, of course, you know, based on the time. I understand that, you know, whoever feel that, you know, it's not okay, you know, you can get out, but you know, that's not the point, of course. As particular for these gentlemen, you know, actually, you know, he got in an accident. The reason why we didn't see him, you know, he was one of you know, viewers, you know, who used to come up from
Hold
time
on,
to time.
CJ.
Yeah, for that reason, you know, that's an exception.
CJ,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
guys, control yourself. Hold on a second, please. CJ, أنا معي هسه بس مومو وهيتكلم. I don't know if you can hear him because أنا طبعا الكمبيوتر time messed up هنا كمان. But just listen to him. He wanted to put his input, and then
No,
from
thank
there we
you. I
can.
will. I will
Yeah,
definitely. Thank
شكرا.
you. Thank you.
اتفضل مومو. ناس قاعدين يسمعوك. I hope you guys hearing him. اتفضل.
الحمد
أنت قاعد
السلام
تسمع
يا أخي.
صوته؟
شو؟
Okay, hold on, CJ. صوته قاعد تسمعه؟ قاعد تسمعه؟ هل الصوت واضح؟ I think Ali voice تاك شوية. أنا ما في زول قاعد يسمع هنا. I don't know.
قاعد نسمع.
هاي قال صوت واضح.
واضح.
اتفضل. Yeah.
واصل أستاذ. يلا.
معلش أنا حاعتذر يعني لكل جمهوركم الكرام لأن أنا بس دخلت بالتشريع وأنا كان متابع حكيم وكذلك متابع الأخ جيمس والأخ سي جي والتوبيك كان حلو. فمعلش بس أخذ مني 5 دقيقة. أنا أخذت يعني بالنسبة لأخواننا اللي إنتوا من زمان احتمال عايزين نمشي، بس هذا خصم هذا خصم مباشر في مداخلة. كلام الأخ حكيم دار يتكلم فيه كلام ممتاز صراحة، وأنا بأكد من هذا المنبر إنه زي ما إن الأخ حكيم دار يتكلم وأخ جيمس يتكلم إن الاستوائية ده ليس فكرة لواحد. خلينا نكون واحدين. إذا إحنا ما وعدان ككل التيارات الاستوائية وإحنا نجي في الحوار الاستوائي عشان إحنا نوحد أنفسنا من أجل قضية الاستوائية، إحنا قاعدين نضرب على أجير صلبان. اليد الواحد ما حيصير. زي ما الحكيم ده يتكلم حقيقة الليلة أنا بتكلم إنه إن الحق الاستوائي ليس حقا على المنتدى الاستوائي، ليس حقا على لأي جبهة من الجبهات. إحنا كلنا عشان نكون عندنا قوة لازم كلنا نجي كل الألايز بتاع الكريتيكال نجي نشوف مشكلتنا. ما دام كلنا بتمثل قضية الشعب الاستوائية بمعنى أي واحد عنده حق بغض النظر عن التيار بتاعه، بغض النظر عن الحزب بتاعه. لأن أنت لو إن الليلة أنت متمسك في الحزب بتاعك، أنت قال أنت اللي بتقود هذا المركب لحالك، هتجبر كل الاستوائيين يخش تحت مظلة بتاعك، أنت قاعد تضع نفسك على الفاضي. لأن كل طيار هو عنده كتلة شعبية. فكلام الإنتو حكيم يتكلم ده كلام صوت الحكيم زي ما على اسم. احنا كلنا حتى لو انا ليله من جبهه الخلاص ولا انت من المنتدى الاستوائي ولا انت مثلا من اي من تنظيمات، انت عشان تكمل صوتك لازم تضم صوتك على منبر الاستوائي ككتله شعبيه متوحده. دي كلام بس انا حبيت اقول ما اكتر كتير، ودي حاجه اللي انا بجيب فيه لان انا يعني ما حاجه اتكلم كتير، لكن انا بقول لازم خلينا نفكر كلنا كالتيارات لازم نجي على الحوار الاستوائيه حتى احنا بنقدر، مش احنا بنثبت واحد لكن ولا بنلغي واحد، لكن احنا كلنا بنتفق كيف احنا بنقدر نسير هذا التنظيم ككتله متحده من تنظيمات مختلفه وشكرا أتيك.
All right, thank
مع
you.
السلامة.
Thank you, bro.
ديدي أنا جيت متأخر لكن الصوت بتاعي ده إنه إحنا خلينا نتحمل بعض الوقت عشان إحنا بنقدر نسبة الأرض. مرة
شكرا.
أخرى أنا بنتظر لكم. أنا جيت دخلت في آخر اللحظة بتاعتكم لكن قد تكون هذا الصوت منضم في نفس الإطار بتاعه لمصلحة الشعب.
شكرا كثير مومو. I will talk to you later definitely. بشكرك كثير والحمد لله على السلامة وربنا يحميك ويشفيك. We'll talk later definitely. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.
All right, guys, أنا بشكركم على الصبر بتاعكم again everyone. I know everybody have their time and effort. Again, it's Equatoria, and we always remember Equatoria Free Forum. Sometimes we go to a lot of situations like this where we go longer, but I don't want to comment at this moment, but I want to say thank you for everyone who joined. And also I wanted to acknowledge Hadassah, Didi for, Hadassah for her message, because she's right. I mean, I agree with you 100% that people have to understand and respect people and time. I mean, negative time with time, because we're trying to do some topic that is very serious. And we're gonna, and again, الصحافي ده هنا, and we're going to have time. وتايم بتاعنا مع الصحافي لازم يكون 1 hour, not even more. والصحافي ده هو اتكلم عن الموضوع ده بكل بوضوح, وإنما هندي يعني السؤال اللي بتاعنا كان عندكم أي سؤال ده تسألوه قبل ما نحن نيجي نجيبه. السؤال ده يكون محدود لأنه هو answer it on a specific, and then from there we will give him his time to leave, and then from there we go forward, and then from there we can also we're going to bring another guest, but this guest is going to be just for this time. We don't want to call his name. He's actually willing to come in, and he's actually working on our issues of Equatoria, and he knows exactly what's going on. Taban Zolda is not somebody that we can bring him out in this time. But the good thing that the journalist or the Zol bita Sahafa da, he's willing and he's ready. وكمان صديق أنا بعرفه في الشخصية بتاعه إنه هو somebody who understood South Sudan better than any other biased journalist. لأنه في صحفيين تانيين كمان يعني عندهم ناحية بتاع بروباغندا لمصالحهم الخاصة عشان يقدر في جنوب السودان ويلعبوا دور اللي بس عشان يقدر يعرفوا حاجات أكتر. I don't want to go far, but بشكركم على كل كلام بتاعكم, and our sisters, your time, and our brother also James coming in, and also brother Hakim for your time to talk, and then CJ also, thank you so much, and also the audience, I give you thanks for everything that you do and supporting us, and also نشكر كل supporters تاعنا, those who contribute also financially, and those who also contribute with their ideas, and those who contribute with our work in behind the scene. We thank you so much, because احنا عارفين the mission is long, but it's not that long because we are there. طبعا في obstacles, الشيطان بيلعب, لكن احنا شفنا أبناء الحرة, we will get our land. We will get our land because we are not, brought illegitimately, or احنا سرقنا أرض تاع زول تاني. ده أرض تاع أجدادنا وهناخذ باسم الله, باسم ربنا يسوع المسيح. نشكركم and thank you. Anybody want to say anything before I put the music or nothing? That's it?
Thank you. That's it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. يلا شكرا لكم يا جماعة. God bless you guys. Music, huh? Hold on. I don't know why it's not taking time. Oh, here it is. Yeah, just a minute. I'm trying to put the music. My bad. شكرا بابا.
Anina Equatoria, Nasawa, Anina Equatoria, Beled Wahid, Anina Equatoria, Anehna, Anina Equatoria. Oh yeah, Kanita Minyambio, Kanita Mintori, وليتا من جوبا أنينا إيكوتوريا كريسيا سماجيسي مالينا We strong when stand together Kanihna gulu wahi Equatoria biraba Yalpigwa pijama Asan belet na biraba So give us pen, don't give us guns Give us igba na gule Anina Equatoria Nasawa Anina Equatoria Belet wahid Anina Equatoria Anehna Anina Equatoria Oh yeah Kanita zande Kanita mai Au kukuye Anina Equatoria Kelene na hibo nefusina Kebilia kedema periganina Salam wa sakhafa Behaja derino Hasan belet na biraba Arif ma bisaido So give us pen, don't give us guns Give us ipa na bule Anina Equatoria Nasawa Anina Equatoria Belet wahid Anina Equatoria Anehna Anina Equatoria
Nihna kulu sawa jama Show my pearl fanangala I love my people and I'm the voice
Acholi ya buga ya baka Ediga balanda bari Kakuwa kiliko Lambo lugoya Acholi Posa mundo Nyangara morobe made Mundare Nyangara Otumo pare makojudo Lubara buga ya lobe Lolo Posa
Mundo
Nare
Anina kulu nasi sawa Mavi hata bigezi manena Siasa mabigezi manena Anina wahe
Shukran jazilan to everyone who've been here. Inshallah, kan ma bukra badi bukra hanajini continue part 2 of the same 3 episodes that we are going to talk about on the topic. Just a second. The report on the Equatoria, the report on South Sudan and Equatoria specifically. It says the conflict and crisis in South Sudan and Equatoria, especially this thing about Equatoria in general. So shukran katir lekum. وخلي Equatoria stand their place until the next time. God bless you. Bye.